The story begins in Africa in the midst of fighting, where previously peaceful places are plunged into smoke and chaos. A young soldier drags his wounded comrade through the smokescreen, cheering him on. The blonde lady hurries them. Excitement freezes on the lady's face. She shouts encouragement to the wounded man, saying that the military doctor will be able to save him. Dark. Only glimpses of galaxies can be seen in the blood-red eyes of death itself, holding its bone scythe high. A doctor with scalpels is the only one who can pull a person out of the clutches of death. The bright white hospital light blinds the soldier's eyes. The surgeon and his assistant are fighting for his life. A blonde lady runs into a military hospital, calling for a doctor. The soldier was shot in the chest. The situation is critical. On the couch lies the lifeless body of a soldier. The doctor pronounced him dead. The doctor warns the lady not to fight for the lives of seriously injured patients anymore, and just give up. The lady is surprised at first, then she violently reminds the doctor about the Hippocratic Oath and about the duty to save all people. The doctor, with icy calm, tells the lady that they are on the battlefield and this changes everything. Tears roll down the lady's rosy cheeks. She called the doctor a demon and threatened to report him to the Red Cross. He was both a doctor and a soldier, and there is no Red Cross authority over him. There is a clatter of boots. A soldier bursts into the room with a wounded comrade on his shoulders, asking for a doctor. The soldier, in a commanding tone, tells the doctor to save the captain first. The doctor asks if the soldier knows about the local rules. The soldier furiously shouts that no one cares about the rules and pulls out his weapon. In an instant, the barrel is already at the doctor's temple. The soldier threatens to kill him if he doesn't do as he says. Horror freezes on the lady's face. The doctor warns the soldier not to create problems, but the soldier is as serious as possible and is not going to retreat. A loud gunshot rings out. The doctor manages to dodge, and the bullet flies millimeters from his face. The doctor's eyes blazed with rage. He disables a soldier with an incredibly powerful and well-aimed kick. Another second and the soldier is already unconscious. It directly slammed into the wall opposite the tent. Other soldiers swing their fists, promising to take the doctor's life right now. Deftly dodging, he lands another crushing kick. He knocks out the others next to the first rebel. As if nothing has happened, the doctor is already using a scalpel over the wounded man's body. The blonde lady's heart is won. Hell, it had gone from an insult to the ultimate compliment. After thanking the assistants, the doctor took off his mask and revealed his beautiful appearance to everyone. With the order to take out the rescued patient, the doctor pulls the lady out of her soaring in the clouds and love dreams. It's starting to get dark. After an exhaustingly long operation, the doctor goes to warm up by the fire. The blonde lady was already sitting there. He called her by her first name, Catherine. Catherine sheepishly apologizes to Dr. Wang for the misunderstanding in the tent because time is precious and it's impossible to save everyone. After quickly saying that he accepts her apology, he asks with a malicious smile if he's really that handsome, which makes Catherine feel embarrassed and say that she was being reckless. Catherine retaliates by asking Dr. Wang if he likes her looks and figure. Embarrassed, Dr. Wang responds positively, especially noting the beauty of her thighs. With a small grin, Catherine asks him if he's satisfied with just being able to admire them. Dr. Wang gently lifted Catherine's chin up to his face. He wonders if it's a seduction tactic or if she's teasing him. Looking into Van's eyes, Catherine says that she doesn't mind being with him, but it's just a matter of his courage. Picking Catherine up like a feather, Vaughn carried her to his campsite nearby. After an hour of unforgettable emotions, Dr. Wang is shocked by the fact that this is Catherine's first time doing this. She, in turn, expresses her dissatisfaction with the fact that Chinese men always question women's chastity. Touching her cheek, Vaughn quickly corrected himself, saying that he thought she probably had a lot of boyfriends. But she was also incredibly mysterious. Catherine smirks and asks Vaughn if he would like to know her real identity, to which Wang suggests that she is a Red Cross volunteer who has gone in search of new experiences. Playfully, Catherine learns from Van what he would do if she turned out to be a Danish princess who ran away from her fiancé, for example. Startled, Wang praises her joke, to which Catherine claims that she is not joking and that she is in fact a runaway princess. Fear rippled through Vaughn's body, and he nervously let out that he wasn't scared at all, even though he wasn't at all. The next morning, Catherine wakes up to find that Van has abandoned her and threatens to find and punish him. Further events unfold in the headquarters of the Chinese peacekeeping forces. Wang, comfortably ensconced on the sofa, insistently asks Old Man Li to give him the opportunity to return home immediately. Previously, he was already sent away from the battlefield, but at that time he refused to leave. And now, without explaining the reasons, he asked to go home. Old Man Li would only let him leave if Wang completed his assignment. A blind date? It seems like nothing after the Princess of Denmark. How could a handsome man like Wang not like him? But still, he doesn't earn his money with his face. Old Man Li ordered Wang to prepare. Being friends with Wang's father, Old man Lee is now responsible for him and only wants to introduce him to a decent girl. 2 days later, Van walks out of the airport catching the sun with his glasses. He finally returned to his homeland. He is greeted by the sunny city of Pearl with cozy clean streets and the smell of his native city. Wong already had a plan in mind. Don't go on a blind date, because in his hometown, he has complete freedom of action. He would rather go to Gosu City instead. Suddenly, in the middle of the street, a girl in a hurry runs away from unknown people. The girl, seeing the handsome Wang, quickly realizes that she can use him as a human shield. Quickly getting into character, the pink-haired stranger grabs Van's hand and calls him her boyfriend, scolding him for being late and being completely useless. Van pushes the stranger away despite her reproaches, but out of the corner of his eye, he sees the people surrounding them. Quickly figuring things out, Van is ready to teach the attackers a lesson. Artfully pretending, Van puts his arm around the stranger, putting her in a stupor. After being insulted, Van whispers to the stranger that she will have to give something in return for his game. The girl can't even believe that such a charming guy can turn out to be such a bully. Strangers are getting closer and closer, tension builds. A large man in a suit, coming forward and smiling, asks the girl to return on the orders of his boss. A young stranger, hiding behind Van, asks for help, to which Wang replies that he doesn't want to get involved in a showdown, as she is clearly not from a simple family. The girl insists and promises to give him everything he wants as a reward. The man in the suit's face changed, and he barked at Van to stand back and not interfere. Van, feeling like a knight, tells him that his girlfriend's business is his business, so he won't move away. The man commands the others to attack. Van was just in the mood to stretch his back after the flight, and he took off with lightning speed and distributed a portion of his powerful punches to everyone. Van dealt with them all in one fell swoop. Struck by Van's strength, the stranger orders the villains to be beaten until they escape. When the man in the suit asked her to reconsider, she just shook her head. After the chief's command to go back, the strangers left. Van whispers in the ear of the rescued stranger, causing her to recoil as much as 5 meters away from him in fright. Van asked her if she wanted to take it back. She mumbles that she only wanted him to save her. He's already groped her, so what else does he want? But Wang is well aware of the promise of an appropriate reward. The girl is indignant. Did he help a girl in need just for the reward? But Van didn't back down, and when asked what kind of reward he wanted, he replied that he would like to spend the night with a stranger. Horror, bewilderment, and shame mixed on the face of the stranger and resulted in a bright blush. She was calling him a pervert, and would he even dare? Lifting the stranger lightly onto his shoulder, Vaughn broke into a satisfied half-smile. The stranger could only scold him. After some thought, the girl decided not to shout or call for help, as it would be very shameful. Yanking the door open, Vaughn swung his arm and threw the girl onto the bed. The girl flopped down, and he told her to lie still. She covered herself with the blanket as a shield and tried to convince Vaughn not to approach or touch her. Vaughn had asked her not to make any noise, or she would attract unnecessary attention and put him in a bad light. Van plopped down in a chair, laughing as he reassured her that he was only teaching her a lesson. "You can't just use strangers like that." Chuckling, the girl said that it didn't change the fact that he was a bully. Inside, she let out a sigh of relief. Van told the stranger to get out of here. The girl, sitting up on the bed, refused, and said that her father was forcing her to go on a blind date, and it was better that she stay with him. Wang sarcastically asked the girl if she was afraid that he might eat her. The girl just giggled and said that he would have already eaten it if he wanted to. When asked why she didn't want to go on a date, the girl said that she hadn't even seen the guy, and her father was already planning a wedding. Vaughn shared his exact same situation with her. The girl asked the name of the girl Van needed to meet. Wang asked her if she thought he was the guy. The girl in a panic began to justify that she was just interested, and anyway, she would have run away if it was him. Wang replied that he didn't know anything about the girl, other than that she was the daughter of a high-ranking official. The girl thoughtfully said that her father was a big businessman, and that guy from her blind date is a soldier. Vaughn, a little offended that he was only called a soldier, confirmed that it looked like he was her date partner. The girl was surprised. How can a common soldier be so handsome? Vaughn hadn't originally intended to go on that blind date. Then the girl came up with the idea to go together to the city of Gosu and hide there. Her cousin who lives there is pretty. Well, just a #1 beauty, so also with a great character. She's just dreaming of marrying a soldier. Wang said that her sister had better taste than the girl herself. Sensing the deception, Vaughn noticed that the girl probably wanted to use it. And besides, it wasn't good to trade her own sister. The girl said that she wouldn't let Wang chase after her sister if she didn't like him, to which Wang reasoned, and said that what good would it do him if she didn't like him? Angry and clenching her fists tightly, the girl blurted out that then she would marry him. The girl mentally said that she would do absolutely anything to avoid going on a blind date. Wang replied that he didn't really want to suffer, but that he would make a deal since he was also going to Gosu City. Together, Wang and the girl went to the hotel reception, and the girl told the employee that they were already checking out. The receptionist looked at them very strangely and giggled shyly. Perplexed, the girl asked Vaughn what it was about them just deciding to move out. Vaughn made it clear to her that they had only been in the room for 20 minutes. The girl, not understanding anything, asked what this had to do with the eviction. Wang said she wasn't old enough to understand what was going on. Was she that stupid? The girl understood. She was embarrassed at first, and then angry, and started shouting that she wouldn't do this to him and that she would complain to someone. Grabbing the girl's hand, Wang laughingly said that it wasn't her who should be angry right now, but him. The woman at the reception desk thought that only 20 minutes would be enough for him. This is ridiculous. The girl called him a bully again. The following events unfold in the city of Pearl, in the lake pavilion. Under the fading rays of the sun stands a mysterious lady, looking somewhere in the distance. It shows that she is nervous and waiting for someone. A guy in a suit and dark sunglasses approaches her. A pretty lady with eyes like crystal lake water asks the guy about the arrival of a certain person, to which the guy answers her that the stranger has not yet arrived. The lady looks annoyed and worried. Nervously biting her fingertips, the lady irritably says that the blind date should be held today, because that's what they agreed. The guy calmly but confidently replies that, given the circumstances, the stranger probably won't show up. The mistress sends two of her charges to find out why the stranger didn't show up for the meeting. It was getting dark. Meanwhile, the pink-haired girl and Wang are already on a plane en route to Gosu City. She looks out the window thoughtfully. Van asks the girl what her sister is like. He asks her to tell him more about her, interrupting her from watching the clouds in the window. The girl, obviously ostentatiously bragging, says that her sister is the CEO of the famous company Sukshu Group. In addition to the fact that she is the first beauty of Gosu, the girl's rapidly growing nose, like Pinocchio's, indicates that she is clearly lying. Wang, already looking forward to the meeting, says that her sister is probably really special. The girl, continuing her lie, boasts that her sister is also a very smart and well-read lady, allegedly. She read Tang poetry and various classics from an early age. Vaughn suggested that the girl take a break instead of praising her sister, since he already knew that she was just gorgeous. Some time has passed. The sun is already giving the city its rays with might and main. The plane lands in the city of Gosu. Van urges the girl to call her sister as soon as possible. He can't wait to meet her. Clearly upset, the girl says she can't reach her. The girl starts to worry because this has never happened before. She has a premonition that something has happened. Looks like they'll have to find a place to sleep themselves, the girl said. With a wave of her hand, she stops a passing taxi. Van asks the girl why they can't go to her sister's house. Did she have any plans for him? To which the girl, swearing, replies that her sister does not have a permanent place of residence, and she did not explain the reasons to her. A note of doubt crossed Vaughn's mind, and he thought that this was very strange and suspicious. The girl explained that some time ago her sister started spending the night in a new hotel every time. The note of doubt was replaced by obvious interest. Vaughn said cryptically that he was now really interested in her cousin. The girl began to swear and say that if she didn't like him, she wouldn't let him hit on her. Wang, with a malicious and smug smile, said that a handsome man like him would definitely appeal to her. Smiling even more broadly, he thought that only someone like him could save her, whatever that might mean. The girl just sent it. The phone rang. The girl picked up the phone and said in a trembling but serious voice that she would be arriving at the hospital soon. The concerned girl told Wang that they urgently needed to get to the hospital, as her sister had somehow ended up there. Wang agreed unconditionally. The girl hurried the driver, naming the place. Hospital number 1 of Gosu City. Sometime later, they found themselves in front of a multi-story light-colored building with a red cross under the roof. As he approached the entrance, Vaughn asked the girl what floor her sister was on. The girl replied that she was on the 9th floor. Suddenly, a strange man with a boy in his arms started shouting and calling for the doctor. He demanded to see his son with a fever. A nurse hurried out into the corridor. Judging by her figure, she was clearly in the last few months of pregnancy. Touching the boy's forehead, she said that the temperature was low and there was no danger. The nurse said that she was going to bring a thermometer, but the enraged man said that he would not wait and swung his leg, kicking the girl. The girl's face twisted in pain, and she couldn't help but say a word. She crashed to the floor and landed squarely on her stomach. A second later, she screamed in pain. The gathered crowd began to condemn the man for his act, saying how he could do this to her. But the man grinned rudely and told them to mind their own business. And also, Yara was already calling several doctors, threatening to demolish the building. The pink-haired girl cursed at the man, then turned to tell Wang Yu to take the scoundrel down. But when she turned around, she didn't see anyone, and asked in surprise where Wang Yu had gone. Wang Yu was already standing behind the scoundrel and scolding him fiercely, saying that a real man would never lay a hand on a woman, much less a pregnant one. The man wanted to turn around and yell at the stranger, but Wang Yu had already swung behind him. Before he could finish speaking, the man was punched right in the face, causing him to immediately see blood. Picking up the boy, Wang told the nurse to pick him up. He apologized to her for the inconvenience, and the nurse reassured him that she would take care of the boy. After recovering from the heavy blow, the man with shaky legs and a bruised face still managed to threaten Wang, saying that he would cripple his entire family. The man swung at Vaughn with all his might, shouting in anger. But Vaughn dodged it smartly, only smirking that it wasn't enough for his opponent yet, and so Wang, clenching his fist tightly, swung back and delivered the decisive blow to the opponent. His punch landed squarely on the man's forehead, causing him to bleed profusely. After standing in a daze for a couple of seconds, the man fell to the floor with a crash. The pink-haired lady could only watch from afar and wonder how fair Wang Yu was. Really, he's a soldier after all. The pregnant nurse, who had been lying on the floor all this time, gave a cry for help. Wang quickly walked over to her, calmed her down, and told her that he was going to check on her. After taking the woman's pulse, Wang concluded that the woman and her child were fine. The still worried woman asked Wang again if everything was all right, and if everything was definitely fine with her baby. Wang smiled gently and said that he was sure of it. He's an army doctor, after all, and he checked her pulse, so it's all right. The woman mentally concluded that the military doctor certainly wouldn't lie to her. And then the woman burst into tears of joy. She kept saying as she held Vaughn's hand that he could be her baby's godfather, to which Wang returned her thanks. Already in the elevator, the girl nudged Wang with her shoulder and jokingly called him a pervert, saying that she had no idea that he was a military doctor. A moment later, she said that she would never have thought that a barbarian like him would have anything to do with such a revered profession as a doctor. Smiling broadly, Vaughn chuckled maliciously and asked if he was actually such a barbarian. And the girl probably should be extremely disappointed that he is not interested in her appearance at all. He managed to make the girl lose her temper. She called him a pervert and thought how annoying it was when you couldn't handle someone like him. At this time, the elevator had already reached the desired floor, and the girl called out to Wang. Just one glance at the hospital corridor, and Vaughn immediately knew which room belonged to her sister. After all, there was a security guard in a suit and glasses standing outside a single room. This is too catchy for the eye. The girl was about to enter the ward, but the guard blocked her way. The girl started explaining to him that her cousin Su Mingting was in the ward there, and she came to visit her. A voice came from the ward asking if it was Ning Sue and ordered the guard to let her in. Vaughn felt goosebumps all over his body. It was the most feminine and elegant voice he had ever heard. Completely blurred by the sweet voice, Vaughn mumbled that he hadn't known a woman's voice could be so charming and angelic. After entering the ward, a beautiful lady with amber eyes turned around and called the pink-haired girl by her first name, Ning Sue. She was obviously glad that the girl had come to see her. After taking one look at the lady, Vaughn's heart began to beat faster. His cheeks were flushed, and sweet-smelling roses bloomed on his soul. All he could say was that this lady was beautiful. A second later, Wang was still drooling and circling the room, repeating how beautiful Ning Sue's little sister was. Sighing heavily and turning away from the abomination, Mingting snorted and called him little boy. Thoroughly enraged, Ning Sue grabbed Vaughn by the collar and told him to stop messing around. At this moment, an unknown young man entered the room and began to complain that the security was completely useless. Since this pervert was allowed to enter the lady's room, he demanded to be taken out immediately. A vein pulsed nervously in Vaughn's temple. He irritably asked the name of the person who dared to call him a pervert and a fool. The young master was indignant and said that this was young lady Sun Yanting, and if he ever looked at her again, he would deal with him personally. Ning Sue intervened, folding her arms across her chest and urging the stranger to watch his mouth. Young Mrs. Mingting turned to the stranger, Zhang Minghao, and clarified for clarity that they were not even friends but only business partners. She also demanded that he no longer speak on her behalf. Wang began to mock the humiliated and angry master, saying how sorry he was for the poor man. Continuing the taunting, Wang said that the word fool now suits him much better. Finally losing his composure, Zhang raised his fist high and in the air with a battle cry and swung it. But he missed as Vaughn managed to dodge. Surprise was evident on Wu Cheng's face. He couldn't believe that the man had dodged the blow so well. Van grinned and called him inexperienced. Before he knew it, Zhang was pinned to the wall by Wang, a second later. On the wall, after such a strong blow, the imprint of his head was already left. After this, Zhang's tears welled up, drooling, and he went completely limp from the impact. His soul literally left his body. The door handle turned and the guards came running in. Sighing, Mingting ordered them to pick up her partner and give him some help. Ning Sue called Wang's punch rather weak, to which Wang replied with a snort that he was actually holding back. Mingting had clearly noticed that he must be one of the military personnel. When asked by Vaughn about how she understood this, she replied that his strike was lightning fast and incredibly accurate, meaning that he was quite well trained. Proud of himself, Wang boasted that he was a respectable employee and that Ningshui wasn't lying. Mingting really has a nose for soldiers. Mingting put him down, saying that he was, but she wasn't interested in him at all. Satisfied, Ningshui muttered that Wang finally got what he deserved, and maybe it would make him less shameless. Vaughn stuck out his tongue and mimicked her, saying that it was none of her business. While Ningshui was taking out her anger on Wang, Mingting asked why Wang was here. Ningshui replied that she just wanted to see her and asked her how she ended up in the hospital. Mingting said she was in an accident. She also assumed that Ningshui had come to Gosu for a reason, but to avoid a blind date. At this time, Wang, who was plotting something and grinning all over, said that Mingting would need his help. After all, such a handsome man as he is in modern times, well, just necessary. Mingting, finally tired of Wang playing on her nerves, barely restrained herself from asking one last time who he was. And then fear and a chill ran through Mingting's skin. The fear that Vaughn had learned something he shouldn't have known. Even Van was surprised by the change. He hadn't thought that Miss Grace's face could change so dramatically. After scrolling through all the information he knew about her, Vaughn only smiled slightly and said that he wasn't a bandit at all, but a soldier. Ningshui defended him, saying that he wasn't so bad despite all his disadvantages, which, Vaughn thought, only made the situation worse. Ningshui began to praise him, saying that he had an incredible sense of justice and told him about the situation with the pregnant nurse. Mingting immediately softened, and her features regained their grace. She admitted that she might have become overly sensitive and suggested that Vaughn talk about everything after she was discharged. It occurred to her that she needed to find out who he was, and if he could really help her, Van said he'd be happy to talk to her. At that moment, a shout came from the other side of the door. He demanded an explanation from the lady. A moment later, an adult gentleman entered with 2 guards. The man said that the lady's guards wouldn't stop him. Sighing heavily, the young lady said that she had no idea what he was talking about. The man just grinned and ordered the lady not to pretend and tell the truth. What happened to his son? Inwardly, Mingting was extremely worried that Zhang was so seriously injured. She couldn't have imagined it. Beads of sweat trickled down Vaughn's forehead. Would his mistress turn him in red-handed? Well, even so, he has a plan. But the lady replied to the man that she would explain the whole situation later. Wang was slightly surprised that the ice Mingting had come to his defense. The man, on the other hand, was eager to find out the whole truth, and he demanded to explain everything to him right here and now. Confused, but angered by the man's behavior, Ningshui asked who gave him permission to shout in the hospital. Then, Wang intervened, and cautiously hinted to the man that if he continued to shout, the same thing would happen to him as to his son. The uncomprehending man asked for an explanation. Mingting hadn't expected Wang to get into trouble at all. He's very young, and that will only make the situation worse. Wang continued to tell the man that shouting in the hospital wasn't a good idea. Wang blamed everything that had happened to Zhang on the ghostly spirits of Qi and explained that he had angered them. This behavior of Wang annoyed the man, and he threatened him, ordering him to stop playing smart and talking nonsense. Ningshui was well aware that such deception would only make her master even angrier, and Wang continued to lie with complete confidence. He said that Zhang suddenly went berserk and started banging his head against the wall. He even presented proof, a footprint on the wall. The man was already on edge, and Vaughn was clearly enjoying it all. Already prepared for the man's threats, Vaughn readied himself and took a piece of wall in his hand. And when the man started to approach, he accurately threw it directly into the master's stomach, causing him to fall to his knees. The man howled in pain, holding his stomach with both hands. He screamed that he was in a lot of pain. In the meantime, Wang started scaring the master's guards, saying that it was the work of ghosts. I told them to take the wounded man to the doctor. The guards brought out a man who was barely able to stand on his feet, and he was muttering to be taken to his personal doctor as soon as possible. Struck by the whole scene, Ningshui truly believed in ghostly Karaki. Van just sighed. While Wang and Ningshui were bickering and exchanging nasty things, Mingting thought that they certainly weren't ghosts, which meant that Wang had done something to the man. Mingting interrupted them and told them to prepare for discharge, as she was already feeling better. Sunlight hits the windows of a multi-story building. The heroes arrived at the hotel. Before she could get out of the car, Mingting had already caught the eyes of passing men. She made them fall in love with her at first sight. Mingting said to wait for her, as she was going to change her clothes. Vaughn's heart started beating at the speed of light. He'll definitely be looking forward to it. After knocking on Mingting's door a little later, Wang saw an incredible picture. Mingting was dressed quite simply, but she looked stunning. Vaughn imagined what it would have been like if she had tried on some better clothes. The tea party was held in deathly silence. Mingting broke the silence by saying that she would get down to business after a couple of questions. Wang replied that he knew what she wanted to know, and before Mingting could ask, he answered that I pressed down on one of the acupuncture points of the man in the room. In fact, Wang had used a small piece of wall, but Mingting probably wouldn't believe that. Mingting asked, "Is Wang an expert in acupuncture?" As he continued to lie, Vaughn lied about using the skill on the battlefield. His self-esteem almost hit the ceiling. Mingting brought him down from the sky. She reminded him how much trouble he'd caused her. She said that the Jiang family was very influential and there was no way it would stop. And then her protection wouldn't be enough for him. Wang chuckled smugly and said that they wouldn't do anything to him. Don't let her worry. But Mingting kept coming. She said that his lies would not help him, so the master's son would soon wake up and tell him everything. Further burying himself in the lie, Wang said that he had used his technique on Zhang as well, and that Zhang would not remember anything and would blame the ghosts. After sorting everything out, Vaughn asked if his mistress was worried about him after all he had told her. Mingting replied that she wouldn't worry now that he had such skills. Suddenly, Mingting got up from her seat and took a prayer pose. She asked Vaughn to use his skills and help her out since someone was trying to kill her. Wang replied with complete determination that she could rely on him, but in return he wants to ask for something. Mingting started to offer him money, but Wang interrupted her and asked her to become his girlfriend. Mingting's face didn't tell if she was upset, confused, or angry. She just stared at Vaughn with her amber but clearly tired eyes, and suddenly, as if mentally weighing all the pros and cons, she gives out that she agrees. Mingting suggested that we discuss everything later, as she was very tired and wanted to rest. Van was grinning as he stepped out of the room. He really liked the character of the Ice Lady Mingting. At this time in the hospital Gosu number 1. In Mr. Zhang's room, the doctor says they don't know the cause of his sudden abdominal pain. As the tests are fine, the man was exasperated by these words. He started shouting that since they couldn't find out the reason, they were absolutely useless. The doctor immediately began to apologize and say that this was the first time he had such a case. The man ordered the doctor to leave. He thought to himself that the best hospital in the city couldn't figure it out. Were these really ghostly powers? His personal security guard, a man wearing dark glasses and a black and white suit, offered to take him to his teacher, who is well-versed in Chinese medicine. The man ordered to quickly call this teacher to him. A little later, in the evening, events take place in the restaurant. After tasting the dessert, Ning Shui blushed with pleasure. In front of Wang were Ning Shui and Mingting. Van caught a twinge of emotion at the sight before him. And that was what Ning Shui noticed. She hinted that I thought Van was glowing with happiness so much that he had already turned into a large lamp. Breaking out of his reverie, Vaughn asked her if she was talking about him. There was no limit to his joy. Ning Shui said that he hadn't said a word since they sat down at the table. Wang sulkily said that he would have joined her, but she probably wouldn't have wanted to. Ning Shui frowned. She said they weren't so picky as to mind if he interjected, but he's behaving very strangely. Van offered to see if he could get in a little later. Ning Shui didn't understand his words at first, and when I realized it was redder than a ripe tomato. While her sister was embarrassed, Mingting only smiled softly. Watching her smile, Wang found that Mingting's feminine smile simply won him over. At that moment, the phone rang. An unknown number called. The call made Mingting visibly tense and nervous. Apparently, she had some idea who it might be. Standing up abruptly, Mingting said that since they had finished eating, it was time for them to go back. It was finally dark outside. Everyone was already in the hotel. Wang knocked on Mingting's door. She opened it. Over a cup of tea, Mingting said that Wang probably already guessed who called her. Wang suggested that the call was made by the killer. Mingting confirmed his words and said that the killer calls her every time before the attempt. Hearing this, Vaughn immediately thought of someone he clearly knew. His demeanor and extreme confidence prove it. After turning on Silly, Wang asked if the assassin shouldn't be afraid that Mingting would just run away. Mingting replied that she also thought so at first, but he found her every time she ran away, and she almost died once already, so there's no point in running away. Mingting sighed heavily and said that it was all like a nightmare. Van asked how many times this had happened. Mingting replied that it would be the 5th time. Wang was very surprised that they tried to kill this woman 4 times, but they couldn't. He noticed that the lady was quite intelligent, and that was probably why she was still alive. He asked her about her intentions this time. Mingting replied that she was going to a dinner party today, and that the killer would probably try to kill her on the way there. Mingting went to her purse and searched for her phone. She said that she would call security. It was necessary to collect it and come up with a plan of action. Vaughn calmly said that there was no need for that. But Mingting had already dialed the number and told Wang that she had the best security in China, and he needed to meet them. Van walked over to the balcony and told her that she had misunderstood him. The girl looked at him questioningly. He went on and said that he alone would be enough for such an occasion. Putting down the phone, Mitten said that she didn't want to die because of him, and told him to get out as their contract was ruined. In her mind's eye, she was surprised at how arrogant he was. But Wang continued calmly. He asked her why she didn't trust him so much. Mingting apologized and said that she couldn't trust a guy like him with her life. Van explained his point of view. She didn't want to die, and he wouldn't risk his life for her just like that. And that makes sense. After all this speculation, Mingting agreed to trust him. The next day, Mingting went to a dinner party. Van went with her. Mingting was wearing a dainty dress, the color of a bright red rose that had just opened. She was as beautiful as ever. Later, Mingting was fixing her makeup while in the car. She told Vaughn that the party would be held at Mo Ho's mansion. She said that as soon as they were out of the city limits, she would be hunted down. Vaughn suggested that she relax and rely on him. With a soft smile, Wang said that he felt that Mingting still didn't trust him. Wang noticed a car chasing them and told the driver to stop. Mingting, on the other hand, ordered to speed up. The confused driver didn't know who to listen to. Mingting continued to insist that they need to speed up. Wang said that if they continued to run away, the pursuers would only become more aggressive. Dumbfounded, Mingting asked, how did he know they were following them? Wang said that the Mingting guards tried to stop them in the city, but they failed. He said her pursuers were mercenaries, which meant they were better at tracking and getting rid of the tail. Mingting had a storm of emotions in her head. She wondered how he knew, since she hadn't said a word to him, unless he was in league with them, and he'd turned her into the assassins, causing her security detail to fail the mission. As if reading her mind, Vaughn replied that if he was the killer, she would be dead by now. The pursuers drove faster and faster. Mingting was getting scared. Can't they do anything? Wang asked the driver to stop the car one last time. Mingting agreed irritably and said that she was discovered anyway and would be killed soon. With a casual smile, Vaughn said that he would just go out and deal with them, and she could take advantage of the situation and escape. After his words, Mingting felt confident, and she asked the driver to stop the car. As Wang got out of the car, he wondered how cruel and harsh Mingting was for leaving him alone to deal with dozens of mercenaries. Big men in suits and dark glasses got out of the car, but Van was fully armed and ready for battle. Lightning flashed in his eyes, but suddenly, an annoying ringtone with a funny song about seaweed began to come out of his phone. Vaughn was completely thrown off balance by this. It turned out that it was Mingting who called to say that she would wait for him. One of the mercenaries came over, walking heavily and slowly removing his glasses from his face. Chuckling, he asked Vaughn if he was going to fight alone with dozens of soldiers. But Van wasn't interested in him at all. He was on the phone with a girl who charmed his heart and mind. Everyone's attention was focused on her voice. The mercenary was infuriated by this and was ready to finish off Vaughn right then and there. But Vaughn noticed his intentions out of the corner of his eye, and quickly dropping the phone was ready for a fight. Moving quickly and deftly, he grabbed the mercenary's head. I looked at him with eyes full of rage. A single grip was enough to send the mercenary falling to the ground dead. As she got out of the car and watched, Mingting noticed that she had greatly underestimated Wang's strength. While casually adjusting his tie, Vaughn made a suggestion to the mercenaries. He suggested that he attack all at once so as not to waste time. The blonde stranger ordered them to form the rarest formation in martial arts, the 5 Death Row formation. Mingting was certain that Wang Yu was now in danger, as many fighters had died in this way. The lady's guard suggested that she run. He was sure that Wang Yu wouldn't last long, but Mingting was against it. He was coming face to face with his enemies, and why should she be afraid and run? She was determined. She would wait for Wang Yu. In an instant, the blonde man was already above Vaughn's head and ready to attack. But Wang Yu isn't that simple. He called it a cheap trick and warned the blonde not to act so arrogantly. Summoning all the strength in his punch, Wang Yu attacked first. He punched the blonde right in the gut, literally knocking the last of his soul out of him. A moment later, Mingting was completely shocked that Wang Yu had killed everyone in such a short time. She wondered how strong this guy was. As Vaughn grabbed another mercenary by the scruff of the neck, he marveled at how menacing they looked. And now, they were just yapping. Begging for mercy, the mercenary said that he would give Wang Yu any information he wanted. Wang reassured him that he wasn't going to kill him. He only wants the mercenary to go back and tell his boss, the Beast Lord, everything. Van would very much like to see him. The mercenary didn't expect that Wang knew who his superior was. He asked how Wang knew about this. But Van wasn't going to answer. He only repeated his order. The mercenaries quickly got into their cars, pressing on the gas as hard as they could. Van watched and watched them go. Smiling matter-of-factly, Wang told Mingting that he had sent the mercenaries back to their boss. He thinks the problem should be solved now. Satisfied with the outcome, Mingting asked Wang what he wanted in return. After a moment's thought, Wang replied that he would like to receive Mingting's kiss. Mingting was extremely surprised by this response. With a determined gait, she walked towards Van. Van looked nervous. A bead of sweat ran down his cheek from excitement. He thought that his happiness was rapidly approaching him. Van swallowed hard. Mingting came close to him, stood up on tiptoes, and whispered softly in Wang's ear that she couldn't fulfill such an intimate request. They've only recently met, and Van is going overboard. Disappointed, Wang wondered if this was such an intimate request, Minting said as she left, which recognizes kissing and that sort of thing only between spouses. Slightly surprised by these beliefs, Wang asked about the agreement to become his girlfriend. It was clear from Mingting's expression that she was up to something. Without a word, she turned around and walked with a confident gait, a satisfied grin on her face. Sparkling with ornaments under the sun, the heroes were waiting for the Mo Holy Mansion, where the party will be held. At the entrance to the mansion, a valet met them, announcing that the guests had arrived. Wang and Mingting were greeted by the bright lights of expensive chandeliers and the large halls of the mansion. Wang asked Mingting, with a touch of irony, whether he was her beau or her servant in this game. Mingting answered without hesitation that it was her boyfriend. Van's joy was boundless. He chatted about how lovebirds like them were the perfect match for each other. Allowing herself a small smile, Mingting said that a bodyguard would not be allowed to attend this kind of party. Van's gaze flickered with annoyance mixed with a sense of deception. Van mentally burst into tears on the spot, feeling betrayed and pathetic. Everyone present immediately noticed the arrival of President Su Mingting. They were fascinated by her. A handsome young man in an expensive suit playfully remarked that Mingting had finally graced them with her presence at the party. The girl politely apologized to Mr. Huang Fu for keeping her waiting. Huang Fu's gaze immediately fell on the young man accompanying Lady Mingting. She hadn't brought men before. Wang immediately noticed the hatred and disdain in Huang Fu's eyes. When the master approached Mingting, he said that she was protected here, and there was no need to bring a guard with her. The entire female sex seemed to be infatuated with the handsome Mr. Fu. Huang Fu, intending to humiliate Wang, said that being just a bodyguard, he must feel out of place. But Wang already had a plan in mind. He wanted to see Su Yanting's reaction. He smiled sweetly and innocently at Huang Fu and said that in that case he would probably leave, to which Mingting immediately reacted and told him to stay. Mingting told Mr. Fu that he probably misunderstood her. Wang is not a bodyguard, but her boyfriend. Huang Fu was completely shocked by this information. There was silence in the hall. Mingting's words were a slap in the face for Mr. Fu and made him look like a fool in front of everyone. But Wang decided to play on Mingting's nerves a little more. He started shouting that he didn't agree to be her boyfriend. They only agreed on a bodyguard. The crowd began to show discontent and say that Wang probably wanted to lose his life, since he was acting like this with Mr. Fu. Well, that didn't stop Van. He continued to mock Huang Fu, saying that he purposely rejected Mingting to give him a chance. This behavior had already infuriated Mingting. She was furious, but she didn't show it. Keeping his composure, Huang Fu smiled slightly to hide his anger and said that he hoped Wang wouldn't regret it. Huang Fu proudly turned around and left. Wang decided to ask Mingting who this gentleman was. Mingting, on the other hand, playfully asked Wang if he was afraid. Van burst out laughing. So that he would be afraid? Yes, never. Mingting began to explain who Huang Fu was. She said that he was the grandson of Huang Dongshu, the heir of the Huang family that ruled South Huizing. Van scolded her for not telling him earlier. Now he's going to have problems. Nu Mingting had already realized that he was just pretending again. Ms. Mingting apologized to the audience and said that he was really her boyfriend. She offered to leave the evening. Van confirmed that it wasn't a very interesting evening and that he would rather go back to the hotel and get some sleep. Wang sat over a cup of tea and considered what he should do now that he was Su Yanting's boyfriend. He was wondering how soon Huang Fu would send mercenaries to him. Before he could finish his sentence, two people appeared, a man and a woman. The woman quickly reached for her weapon. Undaunted, Wang suggested that they leave, and then he wouldn't hurt them. The man just snorted and was surprised at his impudence. Quick as lightning, he charged towards Van, shouting for him to prepare for death. Van praised the blood shadow step shadow casting technique the man used, but I disappointed him by saying that it wasn't enough. With minimal use of his body, Van nimbly dodged. The mercenary was shocked to find out the name of his technique so quickly. Wang blamed him for being distracted and vowed to show him the real blood shadow technique. Van slapped the mercenary across the face with all his strength. From such a powerful blow, the mercenary went straight to heaven, shining brighter than a star. The mercenary was surprised that his opponent had the same technique. As Van dealt with the man, the mercenary prepared to attack, but her katana came within a millimeter of Van's face as he dodged again. Van decided to negotiate with the mercenary. Since he doesn't want to hit women, he offered her a deal. As payment, he touched the girl's chest. While straightening his jacket, Van told the mercenaries that since they couldn't kill him, he advised them to run before he changed his mind. The mercenaries were full of thoughts, and so, the woman suggested that the man get out as soon as possible. After the battle, Van lit a cigarette. He swore that today's young people, without finishing their studies, are becoming murderers. There was a knock on the door. The door opened a crack. Behind her was Mingting. She wanted to talk to Wang Yu. Over a cup of tea, she thanked Wang. Vaughn laughed and said sheepishly that it wasn't worth thanking him, since it was a man's duty. But Mingting had something else she wanted to discuss. Before she could finish, Wang said that he knew that he and Ningshui were sisters. Mingting asked what really happened to Ningshui back then. He told her what had happened, and how her sister had used him as a human shield. Wang added that Mingting also used it today, and was surprised that the sisters even act the same way. Mingting said that she was very sorry for him, and Wang joined in and said how unhappy he was. He almost cried that they had agreed to be a guy and a girl, and still hadn't held hands. Wang sulked and said it was all a lie. Mingting decided to explain everything. She told Wang that she had had a sad experience that had hurt her a lot. She said she needed more time to get used to it. Van sat and listened in silence. Suddenly, he got up from the table and held out his hand to Mingting's face. Like a sly fox, she froze in surprise. With a sweet smile, Wang said that he would be waiting for her. With a sharp flick of her hand, Mingting slapped his arm, removing it from her cheek. She said that there was nothing to wait for her, that she had said everything and was leaving. But her blush showed that she was very embarrassed. She slammed the door. Van was left alone in the room, alone with his wild joy. He had finally touched Mingting. Somewhere in the city, in the middle of the road, an elderly man in a hat was riding a horse. Passing cars honked their horns at him and told him to get out of the way. He only said that those who want to fight should show themselves. And now this old man is already sitting in the rich hall, his hands resting casually on his knees. The guard introduced the man to Mr. Zhang. He said that this is the person who knows Chinese medicine. The master said that he could easily be mistaken for a madman. The stranger said to try hitting him. Mr. Zhang ordered one of his guards to do so. The guard swung at the stranger in the hat with all his might, but he avoided the blow and laughed. Before the guard could think, he was already on the floor. Mr. Zhang patted the stranger and said that he was really a professional in his field. The other guards wanted to escort the stranger to another room. Suddenly, Mr. Zhang clutched his stomach again. The pain hit him again. After looking at him, the elderly stranger gathered an invisible force into his fist and punched the master in the stomach. The master fell to his knees from such an unexpected and powerful blow. The guards raised their weapons and ordered the old man to explain. Monsieur Jean was crouched on the floor, shouting and asking what the old man had done. The old man just waited in silence. The old man slowly got up and clutched his stomach again. But this time he was surprised to say that it didn't hurt anymore. The old man began to say that he had never thought that he would have the opportunity to avenge the humiliation he had once suffered. Now the descendants will pay 100-fold. Mr. Zhang thought to himself, if Wang Yu is the heir the old man is talking about, then he will definitely not live this time. At that moment, Wang sneezed loudly somewhere. He suspected something was wrong. This sneeze was unusual. He thought that someone was clearly remembering him. Ningshui taunted him and said that a person like him must have many enemies who can remember him. Wang voiced his doubts. It seemed to him that Ningshui was against him. She confirmed all this and said that her happiness was directly related to his pain. Wang threatened her and said that one day, on the contrary, his happiness would be linked to her pain. But it wouldn't be her first time, would it? Ningshui stopped in her tracks at the abruptness. She couldn't understand what Vaughn had said. As soon as she understood, she immediately became very angry and started yelling at Vaughn. All he said was that she was cute and that he wanted her to be his sister. But Ningshui replied that she didn't want to be his sister at all. Wang handed Ningshui an ice cream cone and offered her a snack. She reluctantly took a bite of the ice cream from Vaughn's hands. At that moment, Vaughn realized that everything that was happening might not seem what it really was to people passing by. He told Ningshui that this scene wasn't very elegant and was even indecent. Ningshui got angry and yelled for Wang to return the ice cream to her. Out of greed, she quickly stuffed the entire ice cream into her mouth. Wang asked her if she was worried that it might give her a headache. But the ice cream was already starting to take effect, and Ningshui was starting to get all worked up. From the look on her face, you'd think she was about to explode. Vaughn scolded her and gave her a napkin to dry off. After Ningshui wiped her mouth with a napkin, she yelled even more and said that she didn't want to be Wang's sister. Then Wang jokingly offered to become a sister instead of her. Ningshui quickly changed her face and happily said that she forgives him. A little later, Ningshui complained that she couldn't take it anymore. Van cheered her on and said they were almost there. Completely exhausted, Ningshui scolded Wang for making her run around in the middle of the night instead of just eating and taking a walk. He happily said that sport is life. But suddenly, Mr. Zhang appeared out of nowhere and threatened Wang. He kept thinking that all he needed to do was delay Vaughn for a bit before that old master arrived. Wang calmly decided to tease the master. He asked him if it meant that he had missed the pain, since he had already recovered. But Mr. Zhang barked that it was his turn to hurt Wang this time and ordered them both to be captured. Wang had just warmed up after running and said that he would be happy to teach them another lesson. Without waiting a moment, Wang charged into the battle. With precise filigree movements, he moved from one guard to the next. Ning Shui was once again amazed by his skills. After dealing with everyone, Wang called out to Mr. Zhang and said that he was the only one left. Mr. Zhang thought that his guards would be enough for at least a couple of minutes. He completely didn't know how to apprehend Wang Yu alone, but suddenly, something happened to the old man. Wang thought that he must have overdone it last time and what he did to his head. The old man was just dancing. Ning Shui prepared to watch the upcoming show as if nothing had happened. Wang was already preparing to deliver his final blow to Mr. Zhang. Suddenly, Mr. Zhang shouted that 2 minutes had passed. Van turned around in disbelief. Walking slowly, Master Yiren came out of the darkness and said that now Wang Yu must die. The old man said that Zhang Ziwu is the teacher of the generation of inner masters. He was amazed that he had taught Wang the acupuncture technique. Inwardly, he thought that perhaps Wang Yu wasn't Zhang Ziwu's disciple, but just knew similar techniques. Wang was surprised that the old man knew Master Zhang Ziwu. At that moment, all doubts disappeared. The old man was amazed that Wang actually knew Zhang Ziwa, but Wang called him a fool and explained that he just knew Zhang Ziwu and didn't have to be his disciple. But the old man's rage knew no bounds. He yelled at Wang, saying that if he knew the acupuncture points, then he was his disciple. Then things took a very sharp turn. Wang told the old man that he really was a fool to think that he had been trained by Zhang Ziwu. In fact, Zhang Ziwu came to Wang and begged him on his knees to become his mentor. But the old man didn't believe him and intended to see Wang's real strength. Gathering 50% of his power, the old man prepared to strike. Van recognized this technique and used a blocking technique. Even so, Van was surprised that the old man used Bagua's punch not only with lightning speed but also with incredible strength. A worried Ning Shui shouted Wang Yu's name, but Van reassured her by telling her that he was fine. The old man decided to compromise. He suggested that Wang apologize to the Zhang family in return for not touching him. Wang ordered the old man to attack. Although Van was determined on the outside, he was greatly surprised by the old man's honed technique over the years. With a war cry, the old man charged. After striking once more and using 70% of his strength this time, the old man was even more surprised by Wang Yu's abilities. Wang Yu stood steadily on his feet, contrary to the old man's expectations. Wang teased the old man by saying that his punch was nothing more than just a tickle to him. Getting even angrier, the old man decided to use 100% of his power. Van asked the old man if he wanted to attack after 2 failed attempts. He intended to teach him a lesson. Summoning all his might, Van swung his sword to strike. With a well-aimed kick, he punched the old man squarely in the face. The old man started to bleed. Ning Shui, subdued by Wang Yu's battle skills, shouted from the side, supporting him. While the old man and Wang were busy fighting each other, Mr. Zhang decided to get out of there as soon as possible since the old man had been defeated. Watching the startled master, Wang asked him why he was helping a man like Mr. Zhang in his dirty business. The old man replied that he only came here and met Wang because of Zhang Ziwu. The old man couldn't wait to find out where Master Zhang Ziwu was. Wang replied that there was no point in looking for him, as he was long dead, but the old man didn't back down. He began to ask where the grave of the deceased was located. He was going to dig the corpse out of the grave. Wang was now extremely curious as to what Master Zhang Ziwu had done to the old man that he was willing to dig up his grave. He called out to Ning Shui and said that it was time for them to go home. Satisfied and in love, Ning Shui immediately took Wang's arm and agreed. But the old man stopped them. He had another question. The old man didn't waste any time asking Van if he was born with royal power, which Van did without turning around. He said that he really was born to rule. Grinning, the old man admitted that in this case, he had a chance of winning. The action moved to an abandoned building somewhere on the outskirts of the city. A group of wounded mercenaries were healing their wounds. The door opened a crack, and light from the street spilled out. A stranger entered the room. A large, handsome blonde man with an eye patch was asking the mercenaries what had happened. One of the mercenaries came up to him and apologetically began to mutter that they failed the mission and are ready to be punished to the fullest extent. The blonde man had said that many of the mercenary group were skilled fighters, and such a simple mission shouldn't have failed. The mercenaries said that many times they specifically gave the target a chance to stay alive, and without any mishaps. But this time, they were interrupted by someone. In a couple of kicks and punches, they were all severely crippled. Besides, that stranger knows that they serve the trapper. Noticeably frightened, the blonde began to ask about the stranger, hoping to know something about him. The mercenary continued to talk about the stranger's incredible power, and that fighting him was like dying. After saying that, the blonde man said emphatically that he knew the man. The blonde man walked over to the mercenary and took him by the collar of his shirt. He asked if this stranger was insanely handsome. The mercenary was taken aback, not knowing how to respond. But the blonde man barked and ordered them to answer. The mercenary responded positively, but said that his strength had nothing to do with his appearance. These words even more convinced the blonde of the correctness of his guesses. Letting go of the mercenary's collar, the blonde man began shouting that he needed to get out of here as soon as possible, because if they found him, he would not live. He ordered all the mercenaries to make their way as well. But everyone at this moment was amazed at how much their Beastmaster boss, who holds the title of World-Class Special Forces King, was scared. There was a knock on the door. Van was standing outside the door. When Vaughn entered, he only said that it was too late. He asked the blonde man why he was in such a hurry. The blonde man was perplexed. He asked how Wang had found it. Pleased with his quick thinking, Vaughn replied that he had attached a tracker to one of the mercenaries. Startled, the blonde man asked Vaughn what he wanted since he was here. Smiling frighteningly, Vaughn replied that he needed help since he hadn't needed his bones in a long time. Completely terrified, the blonde man shouted at the top of his lungs and scolded Van not to approach him. He asked if it was a shame to frighten someone without getting caught by violence. Van just spread his hands. Shouldn't a mercenary like a Beastmaster always be eager to kill? The blonde man screamed even more. He shouted that he refused such a thing. The blonde man said emphatically that he was giving up right now. Wang asked him if he was ashamed to give up without a fight. The blonde man replied that he wasn't ashamed at all. The mercenaries insisted that their boss fight, but the blonde man was yelling at them to shut their mouths. Tired of this showdown, Vaughn shouted at the blonde man to get ready. Scratching his head, the blonde only accepted his fate. Vaughn prepared for battle. He suggested that the enemy attack first. The blonde thought to himself that if he started fighting, he wouldn't get away alive. But summoning his willpower, the blonde decided to attack. But just as he had expected, Vaughn easily avoided the blow. Before the blonde man knew it, Vaughn was already hitting back across the jaw. Laughing, Wang said that he hadn't thought of meeting Zhen Yu, the Beastmaster, again. He said he was still weak. The blonde man complained that the young master could have been nicer to him. The crowd of mercenaries were stunned by what they saw. Their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The battle was over. Outside, it was dark and the sky was the color of sunset. Wang Yu lay on the grass, looking up at the sky thoughtfully. Zhen Yu, who was lying side by side with Nick, got up and asked Wang why he had come to Goshu. Wang replied that he was looking for him. The blonde man asked Vaughn, startled. He wondered if Wang knew that Su Yanting's parents were connected to his father's demise. Wang gently asked why Zhen was letting Su Yanting escape every time. He knows that for sure. He asked who had given the assignment. Gritting his teeth, Zhen mentally told himself not to reveal the purpose of the operation. Noticing the pause, Wang asked Zhen if he could answer his question. Zhen denied it and said that he was just a mercenary and he had no idea what the purpose was. He quickly reassured Vaughn that once he completed the mission, he would kill the person who gave it. Wang said that he also had business with Zhen. He asked to find out if Li Simi had anything to do with his father's death, as the only one who came back alive. Zhen sighed and explained that he didn't know anything about this mission. But before he could finish, Van told him not to try to persuade him. Vaughn's instincts all these years have been telling him that Li Simi and his father's death are somehow connected. Even though the old man treats him like his own son, Wang thinks it's all a lie. Van started to leave. Zhen shouted to him that he would help with this matter. Van thanked him. He patted Zhen's shoulder and left. As soon as Wang was out of sight, Zhen called Li Simi. Zhen asked him if he was related to the death of Wang's father. Hearing this, the voice on the other end of the phone started shouting and saying that he wouldn't be looking for the truth if he was involved. Li Simi shouted that he and Wang's father were like brothers, and he would give his life for him. He went on to say that Father Wang's team had mysteriously died this year. Only Su Yanting's parents survived. He asked Zhen to sort things out. Zhen apologized for doubting Li Simi. Li Simi said that he would definitely sort out any misunderstandings with Wang and explain everything to him. Zhen promised the old man to complete the task. The old man said to stay in Gosu while he returned to China. The next day came. Van went back to his room. Ning Shui was already waiting for him there. She knew he'd gone somewhere last night. Wang remonstrated with her about the skirt being too short and told her to wear something longer. Ning Shui snidely said that if he wanted to, she would only wear a short one with him. Wang told her to stop talking nonsense. But Ning Shui pressed on and said that his face showed how much he liked it. She noticed that Vaughn was very embarrassed and blushing. She laughed until her eyes filled with tears at the sight. Vaughn threatened to beat her up if she continued. Ning Shui tried not to laugh as she apologized. Van pretended not to care. He suddenly asked Ning Shui if she was familiar with Gosu City. She sat down on the sofa and pulled off her sandals. Ning Shui confidently said that she knew almost all the places. Wang grabbed her hand, pulled her along, and said that since she knew everything, she would be his guide. Ning Shui asked me to at least put my sandals back on. They strolled through the bright streets of Gosu. Van had brought her to a very poor place. She asked him what he was going to do here. Van said that he had once been to a place that seemed like hell incarnate to him. Ning Shui asked what kind of place it was. Wang said it was Africa, Somalia, Van had once lost his brother there. Ning Shui hugged Wang tightly and reassured him that it was all over. She asked again what they were doing here. Wang began by saying that his brother, who had saved him in Somalia, was seriously injured. Therefore, he must find it in Gosu. But in reality, the second goal was to find Beastmaster Li Zhenyu, Wang said in his mind. Ning Shui suggested asking the person sitting nearby. Wang asked the old man if he knew where Hao Ijia's house was. The old man asked who he was and what he was doing here. Wang replied that he was also a soldier. The old man gave Wang some advice. Don't look for him to avoid trouble. The tension was building. Vaughn urgently asked the old man once more. This time, the old man replied that Hao Ijia's house was in the east in the third row. Inwardly, the old man thought that Vaughn would definitely regret asking. Walking through the mud in her expensive sandals, Ning Shui wondered if Wang's companions really lived in such a place. When he reached one of the houses, Wang said that this must be where his brother lived. Ning Shui asked Wang how his brother could live here. Does he not receive compensation for serious injuries from the state? I could hear people talking from a nearby house. The woman swore at her husband and said that he gave $1 million of compensation to donate to the families of dead comrades. An unknown person said that this money is much more important to them than to him. After hearing all this, Ning Sui admitted that she had misunderstood and that there really were people living here. Vaughn knocked on the door of the house where the conversations were coming from. The woman inside was crying and said that a man can get so much from the state, but he can't leave. The man told her that even when he retired, he would remain a soldier. Van sighed heavily at what he heard. He asked Ning Shui if she understood the point now. Tears welled up in Ning Shui's eyes. She said that now she understood everything. The woman continued to yell at the man. She thought it was the tax collectors knocking on the door. She asked the man what they should do now. The man thumped the arm of the chair with his fist and said that no one would allow his wife and children to be frightened. Van spoke from the other side of the door. He called out to the man, Dong Hajin, and asked to be let in. Hearing his voice, the man told his wife to quickly open the door as his boss came. The woman hurried to the door. She opened the door and asked the guests to come in. Wang hugged his brother, crying with happiness. He was thrilled to see them again. Ning Sui was moved by Vaughn's behavior. It occurred to her that the brotherhood was actually more sacred and important than she'd realized. Dong Hanjin asked Wang what he was doing here. Van squeezed his brother's shoulder tightly. He scolded him for asking such stupid questions. Wang said he had been looking for it for a long time. Don apologized. Van abruptly asked Don about his conversation with his wife. He asked Don if he felt that by giving money to the families of the victims, he was clearing his karma and trying to write himself into history as a hero. Startled by Wang's harsh tone, Dong made excuses and said that he just wanted to do good to his comrades and their families. He doesn't care about fame and fortune at all. Tears streamed down Don's cheeks. He said through clenched teeth, barely holding back tears, that as long as he lived, he would take care of his family. Hearing his words, his wife also wept bitterly. She walked over to her husband and put her arms around his head, snuggling up to him. She was apologizing for what she said earlier. She was just too worried about all of them. Wang asked Hao if he ever thought about how hard it would be for his brother to have a conscience after that. Hao thought to himself that he had never thought about it. Wang handed him a black VIP bank card. He said there was $500,000 in the account. Hao wiped away the last of his words and asked Wang what he was doing. He pushed the card away and refused to take the money. Wang grabbed Hao by the collar and ordered him to take the money if he was a soldier. Hao Hajin said that he was a soldier who had served his boss Wang Yu all his life. Holding Hao by the collar, Wang asked him what a soldier's duty was. Hao replied that it was a soldier's duty to obey the commander's orders. Wang said that he would then order the money to be taken. Under this pretext, Hao accepted the card with the money. Taking the card, he told his wife that he would send the money to the families of his comrades. Van was annoyed by this. He said that the families of his comrades were now completely fine, as their siblings had helped them for a long time. Wang only wanted Hao to take the money and fix it. Addressing Hao's wife, Wang said that these funds would serve as a thank you from their comrades. Bursting into tears, the woman thanked Wang from the bottom of her heart. Wang said he overheard them talking about tax collectors. He asked if they had a problem with it. Hao quickly made excuses and said that Wang had imagined it and didn't have any problems. At that moment, a shout came from the other side of the door. The unidentified man shouted that Hajin owed him for 3 years and threatened to tear down the houses if he didn't pay. Wang immediately turned to Hao and angrily asked him if it was called that he didn't have a problem. Hao visibly stiffened and said that the debt was quite small. Van was tired of this lie. He sighed. He turned to Hao's wife and started asking her. The woman explained that during the difficult times when Hajin was injured, they borrowed $30,000, thinking that they would be able to repay the debt. Now they owe $200,000. Because they are unable to pay, they are threatened. Ningxue asked in surprise how they owed 30,000 and now they owe 200. Vaughn calmly told the woman that he would deal with it. Van opened the door. After entering, the unknown people quipped that Hao had finally found the courage to open the door. But when they saw Wang and Ningxue at the entrance instead of Hao, they were very surprised. Ningxue chuckled. The leader of the group asked where the Hao family had such a beauty from. He offered to give the girl to him, and then he would forget about the debt. He persistently urged Ningxue to go with him and have fun. After that, Ningxue started shouting insults at the stranger. Hao chimed in. He slammed his hand down on the table and told the stranger. He called him Xionggai to watch his tongue, or he would throw it up. With a smirk, Xionggai said that Hao was just trash to him, and he had no right to threaten him. He added that he would hand over Hao's wife to a brothel. That was the last straw. Hao, completely exasperated, got up from his chair, but he couldn't keep his feet and fell to the floor with a crash. Lying on the floor, he shouted that he would kill Xionggai. This made the man laugh visibly. He laughed that Hao was like a lame dog. Van chimed in. He called out to the man. His face showed that he was barely able to contain his rage. He asked if the stranger's tongue was too long. Xionggai snapped and wanted to besiege Wang. He told him to shut up and get out. That was enough for Van. He made a strong swing with his foot. With a sharp kick, it hit Xionggai right in the groin. The man couldn't say a word because of the intense pain. He just gasped. A second later, he howled in pain as the birds nearby flew away from the noise. The rest of the gang started discussing what had happened. Xionggai had ordered them to capture Wang and kill him, not to talk in vain. They armed themselves with baseball bats. After surrounding Wang on all sides, they were ready to attack. But the strangers had already noticed that Wang's training was excellent, so they agreed to be careful. Xionggai shouted that he would pay everyone $100 if they killed him. After such an offer, the bandits were ready for anything. One of them wanted to hit Wang on the head with a bat from behind. Everyone attacked at the same time, and suddenly there were screams that woke up the sleeping birds all over the area. Vaughn dealt with the bandits one at a time, knocking them out like they were toothpicks. The remaining bandits froze in horror. They didn't believe that a human could possess such power. Hao supported Wang as he rose from the floor with his wife's help, telling him that he was still strong. Wiping the drops of blood from his chin, Wang told Hao that if he hadn't stayed as strong, he would have been able to have fun like this. Scared out of their wits, the bandits decided to get out of the way. Xionggai shouted insults after them as he watched them go. Realizing that he was trapped, Xionggai begged Wang for mercy and asked him not to beat him up. Van smiled kindly and said he wouldn't hurt him. Xionggai exhaled for a second. With an instant change of expression, Wang viciously asked Xionggai if he believed that. A look of horror crossed the bandit's face. After slapping him in the face with all his might, Wang said that if he offended a beautiful girl like Ningxue, he wouldn't be forgiven. The bandit shouted that a soldier couldn't be insulted by trash like Wang. But before he could finish, Wang had already punched him in the chest. Xionggai fell to his knees. He went on to say that once Wang left, Hao and his wife would definitely die. Hao and his wife were greatly frightened by the bandit's words. Ningxue, realizing what Wang wanted to do, I begged him not to kill the bandit. Wang told her that he wasn't going to do anything stupid. Leaning over to Xionggai, Wang asked him if he knew who Hao Hajin was. The bandit replied that he was just a soldier and nothing more. Wang said that Hajin wasn't just a soldier. He managed to complete 7 third-level missions, 3 second-level missions, and 1 first-level mission before he injured his leg. He's a real hero, and Hajin didn't pay because he doesn't want to put a burden on his country's shoulders. Wang said that Hajin has many comrades who are willing to kill a bandit in the most brutal way. Hearing this, Xionggai stiffened, sweat trickled down his face. Placing a hand on the bandit's shoulder, Vaughn asked him if he knew what he was getting himself into. With eyes filled with horror, Xionggai hurriedly apologized and swore that he wouldn't bother Hajin again. Looking down at the terrified bandit, Vaughn released him. The bandit left without looking back. Van just watched him go. Out of nowhere, Ningxue ran up to him, hugged him with both arms, and shouted how amazing Wang was. She finally understood everyone's interest in soldiers. Stroking Ningxue's head, Wang said that it was his duty to do so. After a while at the gym, Mingting was working out on the treadmill. She flushed slightly from the exertion. Someone entered the gym. Mingting asked the newcomer where he was going to go. When Wang came in, he said that he was going to fly to Yanjing tomorrow. Slightly confused, Mingting asked why he had decided to leave so abruptly. Wang handed Mingting a bottle of water. He replied that he had solved enough problems in Gosu, including his own, and now he had some business to attend to in Yanjing. Mingting was clearly upset by this news. She closed her eyes and sighed heavily. She told Wang to visit her in Gosu if he wanted to meet her. Wang chuckled and said that he would come if he survived. Mingting asked in a frightened voice what he meant by that. Wang waved it off and advised Mingting to rest, as she was obviously very tired. Mingting wanted to say something to Wang. She stopped him, held out her hand, then she lowered it. Vaughn seemed to sense this and asked if there was anything she wanted to say to him before he left. The words seemed to stick in Mingting's throat. She was very surprised. She tried to collect her thoughts but said that she had nothing to say to him in parting. She only told Vaughn to take a good rest. Vaughn said a final goodbye and headed for the exit. As he crossed the threshold, he thought about how fate had decided to separate him from Mingting. They were waiting for him in the corridor. Ningshui was leaning against the wall, her eyes dimmed, her smile faded, and her eyes were about to shed tears. Van smiled warmly and asked her what she was doing at the gym. Tears began to accumulate in her eyes. Ningshui simply remained silent. Vaughn gently patted her head and asked why she was crying. He gently wiped away a tear on her cheek. Ningshui threw herself into Wang's arms. She snuggled up to his chest and she screamed for him to promise her not to die in any way. Wang gently stroked Ningshui's hair. He said he would like to find a quiet and peaceful place to settle down and enjoy life. But some things just don't let him do it. Wiping away her tears with the sleeve of her sweatshirt, Ningshui asked Vaughn if he would come back to her once he was done with his chores. Van said he'd be back. He told her to calm down slowly and go to bed. Vaughn slowly made his way to the door. Ningshui watched him walk away with tears in her eyes. As soon as he disappeared from view, Ningshui knelt down and wept bitterly. Events moved to Yanjing City. Vanya was wearing a gas mask. All the people at the airport were surprised and whispered among themselves. Van decided to return without being seen. Most likely people from the main families will be alarmed after it appears. He was approaching a small restaurant with colorful signs and tables at the entrance. After finally removing his gas mask, Vaughn enjoyed the delicious meal. As he sipped his drink through the straw, he thought that first he would have to find a place to spend the night, and then he would have to think about everything else. Something caught his attention. A boy was screaming nearby, trying to get his grandfather to wake up. He was lying on the floor, face down, and showed no signs of life. The customers panicked and shouted for a doctor. Recent news about victims blaming their saviors made them worried. They wondered if this would be one of those occasions. Someone in the crowd said they doubted the old man really needed help. A sobbing boy begged to be saved by his grandfather and shouted that they were not bad people at all. The man in the crowd kept saying that no one would believe them. Pushing through the crowd, Wang shouted that he believed. He walked over and sat down next to the old man. After taking his pulse, he knew that the old man was on the verge of death. The boy was asking Wang if he could save his grandfather. Wang touched the boy's head and said that he would save his grandfather because he was a doctor. Wang turned to the crowd and asked for a needle and disinfectant paper. One of the employees said she had what he needed, but only the needle. She handed the bundle of needles to Wang. Van said that would be enough. Van held the needle over the lighter for a moment. He wiped it well with a napkin. He held the hot needle to the old man's forehead. People shouted that Wang wanted to kill him. Someone in the crowd recognized this technique from traditional Chinese medicine. A woman in the crowd of onlookers kept shouting that she was sure the old man would die at Wang's hands. Still holding the needle over the old man's head, Wang explained that a stroke could be prevented by acupuncture and moxibustion, and then treated with Western medicines. After completing the procedure, Wang handed the needle back to its owner. The girl asked Vaughn where he was going to go. After all, if the old man died, her restaurant's reputation would suffer. Vaughn quickly reassured the girl and told her that the old man was fine now and should just be sent to get medicine. Someone in the crowd tried to accuse Vaughn of lying as well, and that the old man was just getting dizzy, and Vaughn immediately started poking him with a needle. Vaughn thought to himself how vile the man was, and how much he wanted to beat him up. The stranger in the crowd continued to taunt Vaughn. Vaughn just turned around and called him a jerk. This angered the stranger, and he grabbed Wang by the arm and started asking him who he was calling a jerk. Vaughn cautiously warned the man to let go of his hand. But the stranger kept coming and said that he wouldn't let Van leave if he didn't answer his question. Wang grabbed the man's arm and asked if he was asking for death. Van wrung his arm to teach him a lesson. He told him that if a person mocks Chinese medicine, he should feel all its terrible sides. Squeezing his hand harder, Vaughn said that he could easily break it. The man was already beginning to regret his words and wince in pain. The crowd froze in amazement and horror. Finally letting go of the stranger's hand, Wang advised him to scram and find the orthopedic department of the hospital. At that moment, someone in the crowd shouted that the old man had regained consciousness. Vaughn thought to himself that the old man's condition was so dire that he couldn't recover so quickly. As soon as the old man got up from the floor, the boy said that Wang was the one who saved his life. Grandpa thanked Wang wholeheartedly for saving him. Wang only said that it was his duty as a doctor. Grandpa asked Wang to leave his phone number. Wang waved it off and said that good things were best done anonymously. Vaughn realized that he had stayed in this cafe for too long and needed to leave quickly. Otherwise, it would greatly interfere with his plans. Black-tinted cars pulled up to the restaurant. A young man came out and shouted for someone to stop the old master. Wang thought that this old man must have some weight, and it was time to get out of here. Sighing heavily, the young man told the old man that if he disobeyed him again, he would be punished. The old man replied guiltily that it wouldn't happen again. He called the youth by his first name, Xiao Wu. Van froze in surprise. It looks like this old man was the head of the family. A very humorous thought occurred to Van. It turns out that he just ignored a very powerful person with great power. The sun shone on the well-kept cozy courtyard of the Lin family's estate. A game of Go was in full swing. The statuesque old man stroked his white beard slowly as he considered his next move. A tall, pretty girl suddenly appeared behind him and called him Grandpa. Turning abruptly, the old man called her Kinger and asked her if she was there. Didn't she go to Gosu? Grinning, she replied that she had missed him, and that was why she had come. Then, with a sharp puff of her cheeks, she asked the old man sadly if he didn't like it when she visited him. Grandpa patted Kinger on the head and said that he was very glad that the girl missed him. He promised the girl that he would punish anyone who offended her. Taking her grandfather's arm, Kinger complained that her father had asked her to go on a blind date, but no one had come. The old man was very angry. He began to swear at the man who could do this to his beloved granddaughter. She told me that she had sent a spy for this scoundrel and found out that he had met with two girls. Banging the table so that all the Go game stones flew into the air, the old man began to shout that he would definitely teach this scoundrel a lesson. Kinger's eyes lit up. She said he was heading to Yanjing. Stroking his beard, the old man kept repeating the name of the city. Kinger happily said that she would go to Yanjing with him. He agreed, as he hadn't been in that city for a long time. Twisting a lock of her hair, Kinger said softly, almost to herself, that if the scoundrel waited until she arrived, he would be in trouble. At that moment, Wang sneezed very loudly. He thought about it. Is it possible that someone is remembering him again? Wang called out to the waiter and ordered a mountain of food and drinks. After a while, all the dishes were brought to him, and he began to eat. A black-tinted car passed by, its headlights flashing over his table. She stopped right beside him. Before Wang could take one bite, a man came up to him and told him that a certain boss of the man was waiting for Wang. As he chewed on a piece of meat, Wang said that he had just arrived in Yanjing and was already being harassed, and he was privately debating whether to go to this meeting. But the man kept insisting that Wang should meet with his employer. Wiping his mouth with a napkin, Wang asked the man what would happen if he didn't want to meet him. The man put his hand on Wang's shoulder and said that he would make him do it. The man grabbed Van's arm and pulled him along with a sharp motion. He was preparing to strike, but Van was prepared for this. He took the first swing at the stranger, and I gave him a crushing blow to the chest. From such a super powerful blow, the man flew to the side and slammed into the door of the car that brought him. Van chuckled and said that the man would need to practice for a long time to be able to force him. With his hands in his pockets, Van headed away from the cafe, but the man got up from the ground and called out to Wang. He reached into his pocket to pull out his phone and show me a picture. The boss told him that if Wang saw the photo, he would agree to meet him, and if he doesn't want to, the boss will think him a coward. The man showed Wang a picture of a beauty in a provocative outfit with a great figure. Van turned around and started yelling at the man that just because he didn't agree didn't mean he was a coward. When Wang saw the photo, he said that he wouldn't have beaten the man up if he had shown it earlier. Cold sweat trickled down the man's forehead at this different outcome. Events moved to the Yanjing private hospital. Lying on the couch, the old man shouted at the medical staff to let him go, as he was already better. He assured them that he would not shoot at them. Someone knocked on the door. Kinger came in and asked who the old man was going to shoot. He looked at her pleadingly and said that he was perfectly fine. The girl began to say that she learned from the doctors that despite the fact that the rescue was quick, after a stroke it is necessary to stay for examination in the hospital, at least a week. Laughing, the old man begged her to check out early. Lying in bed, he feels like a madman. Without backing down, the girl said that this simply could not happen because he was only in the hospital for one day. The old man gave up and said he would stay in the hospital for a week. The old man turned to Xiao Wu and asked if he knew who the young man who saved him was. Xiao Wu replied that the guy's name was Wang Yu and that he was Wang Chunyi's son. Somewhere on the training ground, bullets flew in different directions and left hot tracks on the ground. The girl bared her teeth and concentrated on taking aim with the rifle. Van frantically tried to hide from the bullets. Bullets hit every available millimeter around him. They grazed his skin a couple of times, leaving only blood splatters. He darted from side to side, trying to avoid the shots. The stranger shouted at him that she would let him run away, and then she would see how he would get out of it. Wang shouted that the sniper's range was 2,000 meters and he had no cover. There is simply no chance for him to escape. A terrified Van, hiding behind concrete pipes, shouted to the girl that he was not running away, but wanted to kill her. Grinning even more, the girl asked Van if he thought she would give up so easily. She fired bullet after bullet, and the terrified Wang screamed that he was about to die. Through the sniper scope, she noticed that Wang was lying on the ground with no signs of life. She thought to herself that she had hit him, but she didn't want to kill him. The girl decided to go see it. As she approached Vaughn's body, she squatted down. After examining it, she noticed that there was no blood anywhere. She couldn't believe that she had killed Vaughn. After taking his pulse and checking his breathing, she knew something was wrong. She decided to give Van CPR. She brought her face close to his. Then Van whispered softly that she was caught. He grabbed her head and pulled her to his lips. After the kiss, a bright blush colored the girl's cheeks. She was very confused. She slapped both of Vaughn's cheeks hard with her hands. She hissed like a frightened cat in embarrassment. The girl screamed at Van to get away from her. Wang called the girl by her first name, Long Yin, and tried to calm her down. The girl continued to scream and threaten. She pulled out her gun and pulled the trigger. The turn of events took Vaughn's breath away. He froze in fear. His consciousness left him, and his soul separated from his body. After the shot, the girl opened her eyes. She was still pointing the weapon at Vaughn. As she put the gun back in its hip holster, she said that Van was incredibly lucky. Apparently, she was aiming, but deliberately missed. She put the rifle back in its case and slammed the lid shut. As Vaughn gradually woke up and came to, he tried to figure out what had happened to him. He breathed a sigh of relief, tears welled up, and he burst into tears and began to thank God that he was so lucky. Wiping her gun, the girl shouted at him to stop and thank her, not God. Turning abruptly to glare at Vaughn, she said that things would have been different if the gun had been loaded. A terrified Wang shouted that if it had been loaded, he would have been dead long ago. The girl began to say that in ancient times there were many men who lost their dignity, but none of them died because of this. Vaughn had the urge to curse at Long Yin. He was going to cover her with insults, but after cooling off, he changed his mind and asked what brought her here. Long Yin replied that she was here to find out why Wang Tri left without saying goodbye 3 years ago. Van thought back to the events of the past years. 3 years ago, the captain had ordered Vaughn to team up with a girl, which Vaughn wasn't happy about. Wang explained this by saying that he is an incredible hunk and is afraid that the girl will not control herself, which will lead to consequences. The captain reassured him and said that this girl wouldn't stoop to such a thing. Vaughn pouted at that and asked the captain if he was questioning his seduction skills. Vanya's interest was aroused, and he decided to take on such an adventure and at all costs make his teammate fall in love with him. A little later, somewhere in the military base, Vaughn casually dropped his army bag on the ground. He opened his mouth wide in surprise. He froze as if he'd forgotten how to breathe. His new teammate was hugging another equally pretty girl. Heartbroken, Wang realized that it was her orientation and his bad luck. Then events are moved to the mission location. A group of fighters surrounded Long Yin, making it impossible for her to escape. After realizing this, Long Yin started to panic a lot. Wang suddenly appeared out of nowhere, cursing his opponents for surrounding an innocent girl. He suggested that they attack him better. I didn't have to wait long. The opponents went on the attack. One of them fired a gun directly at Wang's head. Van miraculously managed to get back from the shot. Long Yin screamed out his name in fear. One of the fighters asked to go and check if Wang was still alive, as the boss wanted to see him alive. Wang sprawled on the ground and pretended to be dead. As soon as one of the soldiers approached him, he grabbed his ankle tightly, and to Long Yin's astonishment, in a couple of hits on the ground, Wang finished off the enemy. Well, she decided to seize the moment. With a deft kick, she knocked the gun out of his hand. In midair, she snatched up her weapon. She pointed the gun at the enemy, grinned, and told them to burn in hell. The sound of gunfire reverberated through the area. All opponents were destroyed. Their lifeless bodies lay peacefully on the ground. She anxiously asked if Wang Yu was okay. Vaughn was out of breath as he walked out of the thicket of the forest, clenching his teeth and holding onto his shoulder. After falling to the ground from impotence, Wang was left paralyzed. Long Yin ran up to him, comforting him, and telling him that everything would be fine. Wang said with dramatic seriousness that he wouldn't last long and asked for his little request to be fulfilled. Terrified and tearful, Long Yin unconditionally agreed to do whatever he asked. Gently stroking the girl's cheek, Vaughn asked her for a kiss. He said that in this life he only had to die, but in the next life, he didn't know. The girl stopped abruptly and clenched her teeth in tension. She abruptly grabbed Vaughn's head with both hands, causing him to grimace. She kissed him sharply. Then there was an awkward pause. With a broad smile, Wang said that he was fine. He told Long Yin that he felt amazing now. The girl reached for her rifle. With a light movement, she loaded the weapon. Gripping the rifle tightly, she belligerently asked Vaughn if he wanted it. Van began to deny it and say that it was just the death throes. He began to make excuses and say that he was really dying. The girl's anger knew no bounds. She said that in this case, she would help him go to the next world faster. The sound of gunfire and loud screams echoed through the area. Later that evening, Van finished his cigarette and stubbed it out on an ashtray. Lying in the same bed with Long Yin, he thought how charming he was and silently admired himself. A few months later, the blinding rays of the sun were reflected in the luxurious windows of the mansion. There was a knock on the door. Wang entered and went to meet the unknown man. Grandpa Long Yin was standing right in front of Wang. He said that since Wang and his granddaughter were lovers, it was time for the wedding to take place. The old man was very happy that his granddaughter finally fell in love with the guy, and this opportunity should not be missed. Wang scratched his head and said that they had only known each other for half a year, and it was too early for him to get married. The old man said that it didn't matter if it was early or not, he would take care of everything. Van will only need to inform his parents and come to his own wedding. Realizing that it was useless to argue, Vaughn cautiously agreed. After leaving the old man's office and closing the door, Vaughn began to think about what he should do. He absolutely didn't want to get married so early. After thinking about it, Vaughn came up with a method. He dialed Mr. Lee's number and told him that he was going to serve in Africa. After recalling all these events, Vaughn just stood there silently and couldn't say a word. Long Yin was also silent. She waited for Vaughn to answer her question about why he had run away from her. Stroking his chin thoughtfully, Wang said that it was difficult for him to say the reason. Long Yin walked right up to Wang, grabbed him by the collar and urgently ordered him to tell her. Van asked her if that was exactly what she wanted. Long Yin loaded her gun. Pointing the weapon right between Vaughn's legs, she threatened to turn him into a eunuch. Vaughn blurted out that it was all because of her grandfather. In just a few seconds, Long Yin's eyes widened so much that they looked like saucers, and then there were tears in her eyes. She hugged Wang, and while crying, scolded the old man for forcing Wang to leave her. She told Vaughn that he should have told her, and she would have talked to Grandpa about it. Long Yin asked why Wang had stopped talking. Shaking with fear, Vaughn managed to say that it would be best if they stopped talking about this topic. She threatened Vaughn again that she would make him a eunuch if he didn't tell her. Wang finally said that the old man forced him to marry her, and he got scared and ran away. After saying that, Long Yin froze like a statue. She just stared at nothing. Then the surprise turned to anger. Wang chuckled nervously as he asked Long Yin if everything was okay. With a cold calm, she told Vaughn that he had 10 seconds to escape. Vaughn started screaming and begging her for mercy. He was scared shitless. Loud screams and pleas for help were heard among the unfinished high-rise buildings. As Long Yin was already in the car and heading somewhere, she asked Wang how he managed to save Chin Amen, and if it was on purpose. Vaughn's body began to shake violently at these words. There was literally no face on it. He turned to Long Yin and couldn't believe that the person he saved yesterday was Chin Amen. Not understanding what was going on, Long Yin asked why Wang had saved him and immediately left. After all, it's a great credit to the Chin family. And Wang gave it up so easily. Wang clutched at his heart and began to whimper. He asked her to close the subject and scolded himself for being a person who does good deeds anonymously. In a half-whisper, he asked Long Yin if the old man would recognize him if he visited him in the hospital. Long Yin said that Wang shouldn't be in a hurry since the old man was already looking for him in the capital. Even more confused, Vaughn said that he didn't feel any better at her words. When they reached their destination, Long Yin said they had to go. Her grandfather wants to meet Wang. Rubbing his palms together nervously, Vaughn was visibly sweating. He asked her what her grandfather wanted from him. Long Yin asked in all seriousness if he thought she was joking. Vaughn's nerves had reached their limit. He asked if he could jump right out of the window. Long Yin immediately put a gun to his head, and I told him to try it. Van was on the verge of sobbing in frustration in the car. Gathering his resolve, Wang said that he would still go to the meeting. Lan Tu would kill him anyway, so what difference did it make? An expensive car was parked at the entrance of the manor. Wang followed Long Yin into the main courtyard of the manor. Wang noticed a group of people and asked Long Yin who they were and why they were here. She replied that this place is an open area for practicing the martial arts of the Long family. Many people come here to learn from her grandfather. Wang said that these soldiers were lucky to be able to consult with the old man. One of the young men recognized Wang and called him the little prince who had left Yanjing City. And later, he changed his mind and began to insult Van, calling him a dog and a traitor. Vaughn was greatly surprised by the warm reception. A vein twitched in his temple, and Vaughn repeated all the insults and was about to get into a fight. Clenching his fists as hard as he could, Vaughn said that no one dared to insult his father since he was a hero. But Long Yin stopped Wang. She ordered Long Tang to be quiet, but Long Tang continued to insult Wang. Long Yin told him to watch his mouth. Baring his fangs, Long Tang said that it was best to keep her mouth shut, as he would soon be the head of the family. Angered by his insolence, Long Yin asked him if he really thought Grandpa would agree to this. Long Tang snapped at Long Yin to shut up. He said that she was only a woman and that she would leave the house after marriage anyway. The crowd gradually began to gather around the quarrel. The crowd was whispering about the War King, Wang. No one believed it was really him. The crowd continued to discuss that he looked more like a toothpick or trash than a king. Step forward, Vaughn asked Long Tang if he was proud of his skills. Tang replied that, of course, he was proud of his skill. Then Wang suggested a fight, and then Tang would answer for everything he said. Already anticipating an easy victory, Long Tang threatened to beat Wang senseless. The entire crowd began to discuss that it was a mistake for Wang to offer to fight such a person. They were sure that there would be no trace of Vaughn left after the fight. With an epic hand in his pocket, Vaughn prepared for battle. His eyes lit up with a bright flame. He was more ready than ever. Putting all his might into his right fist, Long Tang attacked Vaughn. But in the process of attacking, he realized that Vaughn had dodged. He couldn't believe his eyes that a human could be so fast and agile. As Long Tang pondered this, Vaughn prepared to attack back. He raised his fist and slammed it into Long Tang's jaw with all his strength. The poor guy, without even having time to attack, went to heaven directly to the stars. Watching the scene, Vaughn adjusted his clothes as if nothing had happened. The crowd was simply shocked by the sight. No one expected this outcome. Long Tang, who was indestructible, was lying on the floor like a star, unable to move. As he approached his opponent, Vaughn stepped on his face with his boot. I asked him what he would say now. Spreading his hands, Wang said that the word trash would be more appropriate for Long Tang, and the crowd gasped and groaned in delight at Wang's coolness. Old Man Lon came to find out what kind of daredevil had decided to start a mess on his estate. His arrival startled Long Yin. She hadn't expected her grandfather to be here at all. Vaughn, after quickly analyzing the situation, realized that due to the uproar, someone must have reported everything to the old man. Long Yin quietly instructed Wang. She told him to agree with everything Grandpa said, because even though Long Tang asked for it, Grandpa really values the honor of the family. After calming down a bit and scratching the back of his head, Vaughn said that he didn't expect Mr. Long to be so calm. Long Yin said that, actually, every family is concerned about their reputation. The guys in the crowd were excitedly shouting that Wang was going to be in trouble right now since Mr. Long had arrived. Mr. Long, on the other hand, stood in silence for a while. Finally, after taking a couple of steps towards Vaughn, he left a dent from his foot in the stone path. Noticing this, Vaughn realized just how strong the old man was. Mr. Long's inner chi power was overflowing, which Wang immediately noticed. With his hands clasped in the traditional respectful pose, Vaughn greeted Mr. Long respectfully. The old man didn't waste a moment. He said that he should have shot Wang a long time ago. Well, now that he had offended his grandson, he would definitely deal with him. Long Yin immediately grabbed her grandfather's hand and defended Wang. She said that Long Tang was the one who first provoked Wang and got into a fight. The old man asked Long Yin if she had fallen in love again since she was so protective of him. The girl clearly hadn't expected such a question. The crowd immediately began to discuss furiously that their goddess, Mr. Long's granddaughter, liked Wang Yu, and that was why the old man was so supportive of him. Long Yin wanted to have something to say in her defense, but the old man asked her not to interrupt. He continued to talk to Wang about how, even though it was his grandson's fault, beating up a family member couldn't be forgiven. After all, if it goes beyond the walls of this house, then the reputation may suffer. Wang eagerly asked what the old man was going to do with him. Mr. Lone replied emphatically that he would be his opponent. Long Yin blocked Wang's path and begged her grandfather not to fight him. Even though she doesn't care, she doesn't want Grandpa to hurt him. The old man ordered his granddaughter out of the way. Long Yin was more panicked than ever. She needed to think of a way to convince her grandfather not to teach Wang Yu a lesson. Suddenly, Wang gently touched her arm. He told Long Yin that if he hid behind her, Long Tu would continue to look down on him. He has to fight like a man. He gently stroked the girl's hair and told her that he had an ace up his sleeve to keep her calm. The girl replied that she believed him. Mr. Long said that he didn't expect such boldness from Wang. He underestimated him. Wang, smiling softly, assured the old man that it was a great honor for him to fight with the idol of his youth. But the old man was adamant. He coldly asked if flattery could save him. After these words, I began to mentally put up with my imminent death. But without lowering his hands, he stood in a fighting position and was ready to fight. Summoning all his will and determination, Vaughn took a fighting stance. It seemed to emit sparks and flames, cutting through the nearby air. As swift as lightning and as shattering as thunder, Wang charged forward, leaving a trail of sparkling chi energy in his wake. The first strike came from Van. Without holding back a cry, he swung and was ready to strike with his might. The old man was motionless. And so, when there were only a few centimeters left before the impact, the old man used his defensive technique. And all the chi energy concentrated for the strike scattered sparks in different directions from the old man. The shockwave from the collision of the two strongest energies was disastrous. Wang was thrown back several dozen meters and pinned against the wall of one of the buildings. The crowd, still watching the events, was speechless. People only admired Master Lan's strength. The old man stood as still as before. He was thinking to himself how good an actor Vaughn had turned out to be. After all, he hadn't actually laid a finger on it, and Wang had been sent flying such a distance. A worried Long Yin quickly ran over to Wang Yu and asked him if he was okay. He just told her not to worry. She turned towards her grandfather and shouted furiously that this was already too cruel. The old man scolded Wang Yu in his mind. He hadn't even hit him. Wang continued to play the show. He dramatically asked Long Yin to help him get up from the ground. Pressed against her, everything froze. He told her to take her time. Vaughn got up from the floor, shouting and praising the master's strength. The crowd echoed his praises. Waving his hand at the crowd, the old man ordered Long Teng to be taken to the hospital. He said she was done with him and Van today. The old man told Long Yin to go back to the courtyard as he wanted to talk to Wang in private. Long Yin was worried that her grandfather might do something else. Vaughn calmed her down and told her that the old man wouldn't do anything else since he had regained his reputation and won the duel. Wang Yu cheerfully asked the master if this was the case. Holding on to the last chance to not vent his anger, the old man replied curtly that he was right. Long Yin said that if Grandpa did anything else to Wang Yu, she would never forgive him. The old man assured her that this would not happen and told her to return to the courtyard. The girl told Van that she would wait for him and left. Before Wang could wave at Long Yin, Mr. Long was already behind him, as if by teleportation. The old man grabbed Wang by the collar of his shirt and threatened to kill him right there with a slap. He hoped that Vaughn had some conscience. Wang began to wave his arms frantically and say that he would scream if the old man did anything. Filled with anger, the old man barked that he would spare Wang today just because his granddaughter favored him. If he does something wrong again, he can say goodbye to life. Vaughn said thoughtfully that he had already done some things. The old man looked at Wang questioningly. Wang explained that the old man was going to teach Long Teng's a lesson with him. He did everything according to plan, but the old man managed to swear at him. Pretending that he didn't understand anything, the old man demanded proof. Vaughn began by saying that during the duel, the master just stood there watching from the sidelines. He didn't come out until after defeating Tang, and he thought that Vaughn wouldn't notice. But he noticed. The old man clearly didn't expect Vaughn to be so attentive and possess such distinctive eyesight and intelligence. He added that if his grandchildren had at least half of his skills, his reputation would have been saved. Blushing slightly, Vaughn told the old man to stop embarrassing him. The old man said that Vaughn must have already guessed that the latter wouldn't scold him. He was glad that no one noticed the trick, but he was extremely surprised that Vaughn didn't fight. Wang reasoned that although the old man wasn't going to scold him, he still wanted to beat him up. But right now, he doesn't need any extra problems. Van spread his hands. He summed up that if he didn't need it, then why would he fight the master? Vaughn's arrogance made the old man furious, but he restrained himself. Wang continued to chuckle and say how well everything had turned out, and that now all the fighters would remember Master Lan's invincibility for a long time. The old man asked if it was true, but after looking at the crowd that was still discussing the great and all-powerful master, he realized that this was the case. The old man wondered what would have happened if Wang had been his grandson. Wang shyly went on to say that the Long family, as one of the most powerful, had raised many outstanding people. The old man asked me to stop flattering him. He said that even though the Long family is the guardian of the Chinese dragon, the new generation is too frail. The old man said that, as Vaughn must have noticed by now, Long Teng was a disappointment in itself. The old man doesn't even know who can take the place of the head of the family. Wang tried to calm the old man down and said that there would still be a candidate. He pointedly asked the old man what he was going to do now. After all, to stand at the head of the family, you need to be a member of it? The old man stopped abruptly. There was a long, awkward pause. To cut her off, Van said he had to go. Seeing the old man stiffen at his words, Wang suggested that they eat first before discussing everything. The old man put his hand on Van's shoulder. Van turned questioningly. The old man wondered why he hadn't thought of that before. Vaughn tried to break free of the old man's grip and shouted at him not to do anything stupid. And the happy old man enthusiastically said that he had a great idea. Adjusting the slightly tightened cloak, Vaughn said that he wasn't a member of the Long family. I begged myself to let him go. Vaughn was about to sneak out, but the old man stopped him and told him not to even try. Otherwise, he would call Long Yin right now. Seeing this terrifying picture of Long Yin holding a huge cannon made Wang's skin crawl. He wanted to wish the old man goodbye, but the old man started shouting at his granddaughter, and Wang immediately begged for a chance to talk things over. Pleased with himself, the old man was sure that Wang was now caught in his net. Patting Wang on the shoulder, the old man assured him that this mission wasn't too difficult. The old man perfectly passed Wang's goal of returning to China revenge. He said that by becoming the head of the Chinese Dragon Guardian family, he could easily accomplish it. Wiping away his tears with his sleeve, Vaughn realized that this was a good idea. But Vaughn was also well aware that if he agreed to this mission, he would be giving up his freedom completely. The old man waited for his answer. He asked him what is more important than freedom or country. As if sensing something was amiss, Vaughn suspiciously asked the old man if he was hiding something. Unapproachable as a rock, the old man replied that he had nothing to hide. Wang said that even if the old man didn't confess, he might already know what was going on. The old man tensely asked Wang what he had guessed. Vaughn began by guessing that the current Dragon Keeper was Long Yin's father, who he knew was injured. Hearing these words, the old man immediately grabbed Vaughn's throat in a tight grip. Panting, Wang shouted that the old man had gone mad, and he asked me to let him go. Calming down a little, the old man loosened his grip. Vaughn immediately clutched the painful marks on his neck and asked the old man what was wrong with him. But the old man said nothing and made no reply. His silence exasperated Vaughn, and he decided to use force anyway. He flexed his muscles so that his outer clothing tore. He decided to attack with full force. He threw the first super strong punch, but the old man managed to use a defensive technique in time and deflect the blow. The contact of the two forces and the shockwave knocked the old man back a couple of meters, but he was steady on his feet. The old man realized that Wang was being cruel and serious. Wang continued to advance. Now infuriated beyond a child, Vaughn wondered how the old man had the nerve. He prepared for the second attack and was as belligerent as possible. Kicking off the ground with unthinkable force and raising his arm high for a punch, Vaughn prepared to display his true might. But after intercepting Wang's fist, the old man lightly grabbed his arm. Yi gave him a powerful slap in the face and mockingly asked if Wang was angry. Wang replied that he couldn't help but be angry at the person who was trying to kill him. Anger was building up in the old man and gradually showing up on his face. The old man said that Wang couldn't be angry because he was a murderer. If the old man had been anyone else, he would have been long dead. Besides, the old man couldn't turn a blind eye to the fact that Wang had revealed all of his secrets. The old man reasonably began to say that if these secrets were taken outside the walls of this house, then the rest of the families, their enemies, would do anything to kill their family. Wang said he would not spread the word, as he is a Chinese soldier, but the old man stood his ground. He said there was no guarantee that Wang wouldn't betray his homeland. Vaughn was very angry at his words. He said that if the old man wanted to insult him, he was always ready to fight. The old man said that he wouldn't be afraid of him even though he fights well. He asked who Wang's master was, as he was proficient in evil martial arts. Wang said that he was a natural overlord and he didn't have a master. But judging by his fast-growing nose, he was lying again. The old man took a sharp step forward and grabbed Wang's face with both hands, feeling his features. Wang immediately removed his hands and asked what the old man was doing. The old man started muttering to himself about Aura's physical attributes, and that Wang would be the perfect vessel for martial arts. Placing his hands on Wang's shoulders, the old man asked him to recognize him as his master, and then he would teach him everything he could. But Van said curtly, no. The old man was silent for a while, hoping for a different answer. But Van repeated his answer. The old man wanted to know the reason after all. So many people had asked to become their teacher, but Master Lon had turned them all down. Wang went on to say that he once met a master who begged him to become his disciple. But Wang also refused. After a moment's thought, Vaughn blurted out abruptly that Master Long was even slightly worse than that master. When the old man heard these soul-grabbing words, he immediately asked who it was. Wang said that Zhang Ziyu was the master. At the sound of that name, Mr. Long froze in amazement. He immediately admitted that he was no match for him. The old man said that he tried to fight him, but lost. The old man began to scold Wang for being here to become a disciple of the great Zhang Ziyu. Wang picked his nose and said that Master Zhang's martial arts were too bad for him. He wouldn't allow his conscience to look down on him. Master Lon laughed at Vaughn. He said that despite Vaughn's exceptional physique and talents, his body wasn't strong enough. He said that internal and external skills must necessarily complement each other. And if Vaughn is willing to develop his inner core and strengthen his body, he will have no equal opponents. Vaughn asked the old man if he had any suitable internal skills in stock. Master Lon responded positively, but he added that these skills are probably worse than Zhang Ziyu's. Then, abruptly changing the subject, the old man returned to the subject of Zhang Ziyu's refusal. Speaking carefully, word by word, Wang said that the reason was because he was practicing Chunyang Tunjigong, a cultivation technique. Vaughn froze, waiting for the old man's reaction to his words. The old man just didn't say anything and glared at Vaughn as if he was ready to kill him right now. After some time at the Zhemchuzhny airport, in front of the airport, a beastman dressed in a military uniform was standing in person. Old man Li was coming to meet him. He immediately asked if Wang Yu had caused them any trouble. Scratching his head nervously, the hunter said that Wang was currently in Yangjing. Old man Li was furious at what he heard. He asked him if Wang didn't know how dangerous it was for him in Yangjing right now. The old man ordered the beastman to book tickets at once and fly to Wang's place together. As he left, Old man Li came to the conclusion that Father Wang's death had nothing to do with the beastman, which he was convinced of. The clear lake water reflected the bright sky and the sun's glare. The Murong family's estate towered nearby. After carefully pouring the fragrant tea into a cup, a hand picked it up from the table. The mysterious stranger took a couple of sips. He complained aloud about the poor quality of the water, because without better water, you can't make better tea. The taste of tea is not shown in this way. He exhaled heavily, saying that he was sorry for making this tea. He emptied the rest of his teacup onto the floor and said it was time to go out. The next day came. The action takes place in the estate of the Lon family. Old Man Long was explaining the origin of inner qi energy to Wang. He said that the inner qi originates from the dantian, being formed by inhaling and exhaling. He also explained that the basis of qi practice is the breathing method. But people who study martial arts, when inhaling, allow energy to circulate along the meridians of the whole body through the dantian, and in the end, form a muddy qi. This is called inhaling and exhaling in combat practice. The old man continued his explanation. He said that the inner skill can be deep or shallow. The surface skill can be easily developed and is suitable for many fighters. If you only develop this superficial skill, the qi energy will be very weak. While the mental deeper skill is very difficult to achieve, his training does not require a deep understanding, that is, a martial arts talent. And if you level up this mental skill, collect dense qi in the dantian area, and then learn combat moves, you can become an invincible master. Van nodded approvingly, indicating that he understood what was being said. The old man decided to show off his skills. He sat down in a lotus position in the middle of the courtyard, and he began to show the process of transition of qi energy along the meridians of the body. A mysterious, bright energy appeared around him and enveloped him like smoke. After finishing the demonstration, the old man dusted the dirt off his knees and carefully stood up. He told Wang that it was very difficult. Wang, taking his words as a challenge, said that he would now demonstrate the same thing. The old man tried to persuade him not to even try, because many people spend months trying to repeat the cycle of vital energy. After calculating all the numbers, the old man gave out that most likely, it would take at least half a year to learn the skill. Vaughn was clearly not happy with the amount of time it took. Deciding to give it a try, Wang sat down in the lotus position and closed his eyes, concentrating on his qi energy. He took a deep breath, tensed his entire body and tried to repeat the old man's trick. But holding his breath, nothing happened. The old man gently hinted to Vaughn not to try too hard. After exhaling all the air, Vaughn finally admitted that it was very difficult. Satisfied that Vaughn couldn't pull off the trick the first time, the old man mockingly asked him how much meridian he had opened. Wang calmly replied that he had opened 10. The old man was shocked. He thought to himself that when he first practiced, he only opened 2. This guy really is a monster, the old man thought. Sensing the old man's strange gaze on him, Vaughn asked if he thought the old man was stupid after this. Without waiting for Master Lon's response, Vaughn continued that if he had trained for a long time, he would have achieved better results than he did now. The old man hurried to reassure Wang and said that his results were very good for the first time. He said he was going to go make some morning tea and let Wang continue. After all, with his talent and skills, he would complete a small round of vital qi energy in just a week. The next morning at the same Long family estate, the table was full of various goodies and fresh dishes. Long Yin came in and asked Grandpa where Wang Yu was now. The old man replied that Wang was practicing in the courtyard, even though there was no point anymore. He explained that this skill is only suitable for air from 4 to 6 in the morning, no later. At this time, it is the cleanest. Heading for the door, Long Yin said that in that case, she would call him for breakfast. Wang entered the room, out of breath. It showed how tired he was. Upon entering, he immediately happily informed Master Long that he had succeeded. He managed to complete a small circle of vital energy. Startled, the old man spat all the tea out of his mouth and onto Wang's face. He asked Vaughn to repeat what he had just said. Vaughn started cursing and saying that it wasn't necessary to spit tea at him. Long Yin silently watched the commotion from their quarrel. The old man asked Wang if he had really completed the small circle. Vaughn puffed out his cheeks and replied that he wouldn't lie. Besides, it wasn't that hard for him. He asked Long to how long it took him to complete the circle for the first time. The old man paused, not wanting to answer the question. He was sweating a little and nervous. Vaughn thought that the old man wasn't talking because it took him less time and he didn't want to upset him. He asked him to tell him anyway, as he was about to explode with curiosity. Van circled the old man, waiting for the answer to his question. Finally, losing his composure, the old man pushed Wang away and ordered him to get out. He thought that Vaughn was deliberately bullying and teasing him, and Wang resentfully said that he would take a shower first. And why is the old man so angry anyway? Then the old man was so enraged that he shouted that he was ready to shoot the bastard. Van hurried out of the room. Long Yin waved her hands and asked her grandfather to repeat his words. The old man recalled that before Wang had set foot in their house, Long Yin had not protected him. He told her to change, and he muttered to himself that a grown girl should not be left at home. Long Yin walked out into the courtyard of the manor. She bumped into Vaughn. He looked around and asked where the old man was. She asked if he was mad at him. Van just looked at her questioningly, not understanding the question. Long Yin let out an exasperated sigh. They were approached by an unknown man, apparently one of the workers of this house. He said that someone was waiting for Mr. Wang outside. Van asked him who it could be. The man said that he did not know the name, but said that a very beautiful woman was waiting for him. Long Yin immediately looked at Wang with suspicion and jealousy. It felt like she was ready to rip and tear. Feeling her eyes on him, Van started to justify himself and said that he wasn't waiting for her and didn't even know who she was. Long Yin also continued to stare at Wang in silence and intensity. She sternly said that there is no smoke without fire, and that all this is not just like that. Wang continued to insist that he didn't know who was here. In a split second, she flew up to Van, grabbed his arm, and told him that she wanted to see who was looking for him. A strange girl entered the front gate. Tall, slender, and attractive. Before she had even taken a couple of steps, Vaughn was already drooling and calling her cute. Long Yin quickly noticed this. She tugged at his sleeve and asked him what he was doing. Catching himself, Wang nervously replied that it was nothing. Long Yin turned to the girl and viciously called her a grumpy old woman. Van nodded in agreement. The strange girl finally turned to face them. The beauty made Vaughn's nose bleed even more. He, forgetting all the previous words, called her the beauty of the Northern Kingdom and began to praise her, saying that no words in the world could describe her beauty. Smiling gently at the compliments, the girl asked if it was Wang Yu in front of her. Wang hurriedly nodded his head and confirmed that he was the same Wang Yu. He asked the stranger for her name. Long Yin grabbed onto Wang's sleeve and began to pull at it furiously. When he asked her what was the matter, she pouted and said that some shameless people start talking quite differently when they see a beauty. Vaughn refused to admit that it was written all over his face. Looking at this hilarious scene, the stranger laughed. And then she said her name was Kekin Chin. Long Yin's eyebrows rose in surprise. She asked if this was really Kekin Chin. Kason nodded almost imperceptibly, confirming that it was her. Then the puzzle came together in Long Yin's mind. No wonder Kason is the first beauty in town. Satisfied, Wang agreed that her nickname wasn't just for nothing. He walked over to Kason and shook her hand in greeting. Long Yin folded her arms and asked menacingly what the girl wanted from Wang. Kason replied that she had come to thank him. Long Yin asked her in surprise. Kekin explained that she is Ming Qin's daughter. Vaughn immediately recalled the old man he had saved in the cafe. Kekin thanked Wang from the bottom of her heart and said that her family would not be left in debt. She said that Wang can choose any award, and the family will do their best to fulfill it. Van's face changed dramatically. The smile faded to nothing, and there was such an expression on the face that happens if a person is strongly humiliated. Frowning, Vaughn said that he would save anyone in his position just because it was his duty. He doesn't expect a reward at all. He said that he was deeply offended by her words, and said that such a deal would be beneath his dignity. He said angrily that if that was all, then the girl could go away and not bother talking. Van turned around and was about to leave. Kason was shocked by his words. She immediately bowed down in a prayer pose and began to apologize for her words and actions. Van continued to play hard-nosed. He said that her words wouldn't change anything, but he would certainly forgive her for her beauty. Kekin continued to insist that the Qing family would not be left in debt for Mr. Wang's kindness. Even though she had made a mistake and insulted him, it hoped that Vaughn wouldn't reject their appreciation. She said that soon their family would have a banquet to thank all the important people who visited the old man in the hospital. She concluded that Mr. Wang should be present because he was the most honored guest. Clearly overjoyed by the news, Vaughn asked if it meant there would be a lavish feast. He was clearly trying to hint at something. Kaken was visibly nervous, but she didn't show it. She wondered if Vaughn understood something or not. Wang agreed to come to the banquet and promised that he would accept the Qin family's kindness one day. Pointing to the exit, Van told the girl that if that was all, she could go. Kaken was clearly outraged by this attitude. Many men queue up to marry her, and Wang throws her out of the yard. Wang, for the sake of propriety, asked Miss Qin if she would like to stay for lunch. His behavior annoyed Kason. She wanted to curse right there, but she didn't. Turning around, she waved her luxuriant hair. Offended, Kekin left and said that she wouldn't bother them then. Long Yin advised Wang not to make Kekin Qin angry, since she was so generous. Vaughn corrected her and said that Kekin wasn't being generous, but was just afraid that he would ask for too much of a reward. Long Yin didn't quite understand what was being said. She asked for an explanation. Wang said that Miss Qin repeated the word reward several times, and in doing so, specified that it should be within the scope of her family's ability. It follows that she was worried that Wang would take the chance to blackmail them. Long Yin put on a serious face and confidently said that she understood. Kason is trickier than it looks at first glance. Somewhat disappointed, Long Yin asked if that meant they weren't going to the banquet now. Wang replied that the banquet would be so he had to go. Long Yin was confused again. She asked for an explanation again, because she just didn't have time to follow Vaughn's train of thought. Wang said that it was very clear that this was going to be an executioner's banquet. After all the people who visited her father Eamon Qin would be there. Wang said that he feared that all of Yanjing's famous people would be there, which meant that many of his enemies would be there. Therefore, this is a banquet of executioners, not otherwise. Long Yin folded her arms in indignation. She said that even if this girl didn't want to help, but the other way around, but it would hurt Vaughn, it was still out of bounds. Wang said that Kekin didn't want to help, but it wouldn't hurt to have a banquet. Long Yin was angry that he was turning her words around and making fun of her. Wang laughed at the aggrieved Long Yin and said that the banquet was also a test for him. That way, she wouldn't try to help him. Well, if he passes this test himself, then she will pay any reward. At this moment, Long Yin finally understood and was genuinely surprised. Her head was spinning with too much information. She said to herself that Wang Yu and Kekin Qin were better than each other, each more stupid than the other. Long Yin nudged Wang lightly with her shoulder. She asked pointedly, "Does this mean that guys like educated and beautiful girls?" Wang replied that this was absolutely not the case. He placed a hand on Long Yin's head and patted her. And he said guys like silly girls. Completely melted by his touch, Long Yin happily said that it was good because he could only love her. But then the realization of his words came to her. She pulled her head out from under his arm and shouted that he was mocking her stupidity. Vaughn didn't have the words to explain himself. He just stood there and smiled stupidly. And then a loud "Go to hell" rang out all over the estate. It was late afternoon. An expensive private hospital stood in the middle of the city's parks. Kekin sat and painstakingly peeled an apple. Qin Sr. asked her about the meeting with Wang. Recalling everything that had happened, Kekin resentfully said that the old man seemed to be the only one who thought that Wang had a good heart. To her, he was very rude, arrogant, and haughty. The old man wondered why he was so angry with her and asked her to tell him everything. Kason told her father everything that had happened. When she finished, she handed him a peeled apple. Taking the apple, the old man said that the guy was not so simple. Kason crossed her arms over her chest, not even trying to hide her annoyance. She said there was nothing complicated about it. Vaughn was just being arrogant, that's all. The old man was quick to upset her and said that Vaughn was just seeing through her. That's the whole point. He said that Wang probably read it like an open book, he's pretty sure of it. And then he added that Wang Chen actually raised a good son. Kekin was shocked by how well her father spoke of Wang Yu. A meeting was being held in one of the main office buildings in Yangjin City. One of the young men present, holding a glass of expensive red wine in his hand, asked Xiao Lu if he was sure that Su Dashao hadn't said anything. Poor Xiao Lu was standing there with a report in his hands, reporting to Lord Liu. He said that Su Dashao didn't really say anything that day, only drank a cup of tea and talked about the quality of the water. He was completely baffled. The young lord put down his glass of wine and straightened his tie. He steepled his fingers in front of his face and asked the boy thoughtfully. Immediately, a heated discussion began around them. Everyone was wondering what Su Dashao might have meant by talking about tea and water. Lord Liu didn't have any insight, but gave a small chuckle and let out a small grin. Someone in the audience asked Lord Liu if he had guessed. When he didn't answer, everyone started talking about how smart Lord Liu was to solve Su Dashao's riddle so quickly. One of the men said that the next blood exchange will take place in the family alliance, and he is 100% sure that Lord Liu will be their main speaker. Another supported him and said that there was no doubt about Liu Ye's performance. The Lord, still sitting in the same position, thought to himself that he really could be the next speaker of the family. But the problem was that Wang Yu had returned, and if he didn't deal with him as soon as possible, he would definitely be expelled from the Council of Elders next year. In the meantime, everyone else was trying to figure out how tea and water could serve as a call to action. The Lord decided to sort everything out. He said that since tea tastes bitter because of bad water, it means that without proper water, you can't make good tea. None of the people present still understood what they were talking about. Taking a deep breath, Lord Liu continued that the tea is the Murong family, and the water is them. Su Dashao's way of saying that if they didn't work together, there would be problems. He wasn't surprised that Master Su Dashao was so alarmed, and he asked the audience how they would react to Wang Yu's arrival in Yangjing. The response of those present was literally written on their faces. They just silently seemed to recall the past meetings with Wang Yu, their emotions showing on their faces with depression. The Lord slammed his hand down on the table to bring everyone to their senses. He began his speech by saying that perhaps everyone present is now thinking only about how to protect themselves. After all, if Wang Yu passed on all the dirt on them, then their lives would be over. The Lord said that if he were in Su Dashao's position, he wouldn't have participated in this brawl. The blonde man, one of the people present, said that since the Lord brought up the subject, he would like to say that they had nothing to do with the death of Wang Chenyi, Wang's father. He was serious. He said that this time, the Murong family should stand up for themselves first. Looming over the blonde man like a thundercloud, the Lord said, "Does he think they were acting according to the Murong family's plan?" Pointing his index finger at him, he said that the only culprit here was the Murong family, and the rest does not concern them in any way. He called the blonde man an idiot and asked him if the Murong family had a clear idea of what had happened over the years, whether they had sent a special person and instructions. The angry lord sat back down in his chair. He put his hand to his face and pondered as he said that they were doing everything possible to meet the Murong family's needs, even speculating about their purpose. Lord took a cigarette out of the pack and lit it. Exhaling smoke, he said that 10 years ago, 3 people were competing for the position of chief speaker Wang Chenyi, Su's father Murong Yan, and Dai's third son. Murong Yang then said that Wang Chenyi didn't stand a chance. But even so, Wang Chenyi was so good-looking that he earned many awards and was nicknamed the God of War. He stubbed out his half-smoked cigarette. He said that at that moment, the Murong family felt like they were about to lose. And so, a group of talented people conspired and secured Yang the position of speaker. From the beginning to this moment, the Murong family didn't push them to do anything, and all because they killed Wang Chenyi without asking the family. Everyone in the office fell silent, not knowing what to say. A deathly silence hung in the air. The Lord said emphatically that there was only one way out now. He said that they should jointly make a statement to the Murong family and then enlist their support. My hands went up. Everyone agreed with Lord Liu's excellent idea. He smirked and told everyone that now that they were stronger and more respected, they could easily kill Wang Yu. The Lord's eyes were like those of a hawk on the hunt for prey. He resolutely said that Yanjing City was their territory. The weather was sunny in the courtyard of the Long family's estate. The leaves of the trees were green everywhere. Wang Yu ran into Master Long Tu's office, out of breath and shouting what he could. The old man corrected him and said that he wasn't just Long Tu, but a master. Seeing the pronounced joy on Vaughn's face, the old man asked him if this merriment had caused a new breakthrough. Vaughn scratched the back of his head casually. He told the old man that he couldn't make progress because he didn't have enough chi energy. The old man said at first that he understood. But then, abruptly, the realization came to him. Just like last time, he spat out all the tea that was in his mouth. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. But unlike the previous time, Vaughn managed to dodge the spittle. Not believing his words, the old man asked him if he had used up all of his chi energy. Happy and pleased with himself, Wang said, after practicing the circulation of vital energy, he had already acquired chi energy. He said it with such ease that the old man was speechless. The old man could only sit there with a stony face. Wang asked him what was the matter and why he didn't say anything. He tried waving his hands in front of the master's face to bring him back to himself. Faintly, the master said that he didn't know. He seemed to be shaking all over with fear. In his mind, he had already constructed a monologue about how inexplicable it was that Vaughn had achieved energy through only a small circulation of vital energy. Vaughn stroked his chin and said that master probably didn't know the answer himself. As the old man stood up, he said that the only reason he didn't know was that he hadn't seen a vessel as talented as Wang in the past century. Master Long praised him as gifted, but said that he still had a lot of training to do. Vaughn's eyes glistened at the praise. He asked the master if that meant he was so good. The master replied that if Wang was seen by his master, he would be shocked. Van's joy was boundless. He started jumping up and down and waving his arms and asking the old man to teach him how to use the newly acquired ki. Old man Long advised him to keep practicing, and he would teach him how to use chi later. The old man said that he was free for today and could finish training. He said that Wang could accompany him to Longhai. Vaughn wondered if Long Tu was willing to help him. The master said that Long Yin had told him all about Wang, and since Wang is his disciple, he is willing to help him in everything. The old man asked not to blame Long Yin. He'd asked for it. And anyway, he's responsible for the Long family. So the old man hopes for Wang's understanding. Wang couldn't help but shed tears. And as he wiped them away with his sleeve, he said that he was very touched by Master's actions. After wiping away all his tears, Wang asked the old man what he was going to do in Longhai. Old Long replied that he was going to take Wang to Long Yin's father, the guardian of the Chinese dragon. Since if Vaughn wants to become the next guardian and needs to pass his test, Vaughn started waving his arms and saying that he hadn't promised anyone that he would be the next guardian. Thinking of something, the old man smiled and said that he had a plan. He told Vaughn that he understood how he could become a guardian without losing his freedom. Van couldn't believe his ears. He asked how this could be. The old man decided to tell him the whole truth. He said that Long John has a strange illness that reduces his chi energy. He needs time to heal. But in the meantime, he needs to find a replacement. Wang slammed his fist down on his arm and said that he understood. He will serve as a temporary custodian, and then transfer the position back. The old man confirmed that he understood everything correctly. He asked if Wang agreed. Van said emphatically that he was in. Neat houses, cozy streets, and plants in bloom shone under the bright rays of the sun. The action takes place in the city of Yuyama. A gentleman in expensive clothes walked slightly ahead. He was followed by one of his closest servants. He said that he knew how much the master enjoyed going to the mountain. The servant, Lord Liu, said that he should have fenced off the mountain from tourists so as not to disturb his highness. The long-haired gentleman replied that he had something to say. He said that even though they have high positions, they should not cause a fuss. The servant agreed and said that he understood everything. The master told the servant to come as soon as he was finished and report everything. The servant took his leave and said that he had been informed of something half an hour ago. The master has already been informed that Master Long Tu will be arriving in Longhai soon. He reported this to Lord Liu. The lord was struck by an invisible force. He froze in amazement and asked the master again. The gentleman, holding his fan close to his face, said nothing. Panicked, Lord Liu asked his master what they should do, and whether the Murong family's intervention is really necessary. The master said that he was aware that Master Long Tu took Wang Yu with him on the trip. He wondered what that meant. Liu bowed to his master and said that he was afraid that Wang Yu might have some evidence on his hands, so he would not return to Yangjin. The master, noticing the obvious excitement in Lord Liu's voice, asked if he was excited. The master laughed softly, closing his eyes, and he said that if Wang Yu had proof, the Murong family wouldn't have allowed him to come to Yangjin alive and well. The lord was struck by an arrow of consciousness. He agreed with the master's words, pulling a slightly noticeable grin. After bowing to the master once more, Liu said that young people are always smarter, which is why he trusts the master. In his mind, the lord was already considering what he had said. He guessed that Murong Su had probably already sent an undercover agent to Wang. Turning slightly to look at the lord and showing the corner of his face, the lord said that Liu will have to work hard in the elections next year. Lord Liu's legs gave out. He trembled and fell to his knees in front of his master. Leaning down to the ground and giving the lowest bow, Liu began to thank the master. Also with a casual and sweet smile, the master asked Liu to help meet his future bride, who was due to arrive in Yangjin. The master has never seen her face before, so he needs help. Resting his chin on his fan, the master mused that even though he didn't like blind dates, he should respect his parents' choice. Liu nodded to the master and said that he would arrange everything at the highest level. A little later in the Longhai district, Wang and Master Long were entering the courtyard of the manor, passing through a luxurious gate. A man with a muscular build and hair pulled back in a ponytail was standing with his back to them. He stood motionless and silent, oblivious to the incoming guests. Wang thought it must be Uncle Lun. He asked the old man if he could go say hello to him, but the old man slowed him down and told him to just stand there and enjoy the show. Van didn't understand what he was saying. The man picked up a long spear with a red handkerchief tied around the blade. Seeing a small leaf fall from a tree in the distance, swaying from side to side in the air, the man inhaled and concentrated. He gripped the handle of his spear tightly. With a well-aimed kick, he sent it flying towards Leaf. Vaughn was amazed by the deft shooting. The man let the spear fly some distance away, then grabbed the end of it. Once again, he gripped the spear tightly in his hand. The spear that was released pierced the small leaf right in the center. The edge of the blade reflected sunlight, creating a glare. The man remained standing in the same position with his hand outstretched with a spear in it. The small leaf on the end of the spear was barely visible, but thanks to the sun's glare, it was visible from afar. Van, startled by what he saw, praised the man's skills. He thought that this silver spear certainly weighed at least 10 or even 20 kilograms. He wondered how strong a man must be to hold a spear by its end. With the same sharp and precise movement of the spear, the man pierced through leaf after leaf, preventing them from falling to the ground. The old man said that there were flying generals in Longhai in ancient times, but now he is proud of the spear gods. Hearing these words from the old man's mouth, the man immediately understood who he was. He placed the spear in its rightful place. He turned to face his guests, clasped his hands in a respectful gesture, and greeted his father. The old man praised his progress in Yuejia's shooting skill. Wang asked the master, "Is this the Yui family shooting?" The old man confirmed his words and said that the ancient family once had a chance to obtain this technique, and now they are a certain sect. Vaughn noted that it wasn't surprising that this kind of shooting was so violent, since it was created by the Spear King himself. The man asked Master Lon if this was the young man he was talking about. Wang bowed respectfully to Uncle Lun and introduced himself as Wang Yu Jr. Lun smiled and asked Wang if he had the guts to challenge him. Vaughn was very uncomfortable with the question. He asked him if it would be too quick to start the battle immediately after the meeting. Lun stared intently into Wang's eyes. He teased him by saying that he might not have the guts to take his hand and become the next Dragon Keeper. Vaughn was deeply offended and angered by his words. He said he had nothing to fear. At this moment, Wang only thought that he wouldn't be able to take on the role of guardian because Lun Zhang, despite being ill, was still stronger than him. But with his mind made up, Vaughn took a step forward and took up a fighting stance. His face showed a fierce desire for battle. Praising his determination, Lun said that he would be able to reach unprecedented heights. He immediately warned Vaughn that he would compare him to others and would never favor him. Old Man Long reacted to his words almost instantly. He pointed a finger at Lun Jian and threatened that if Lun Jian laid a finger on Wang, he wouldn't be able to avoid the consequences. Wang told the master not to worry, although he could barely contain his excitement. As he prepared for the attack, Wang said that he would only be pleased if Lun didn't show him mercy. Lun smiled and said that he liked Wang's courage. Lun Jian took a step forward. After releasing all of his qi energy, he was ready to attack. In a split second, he took off. Before Wang knew it, Lun Jiang was already inches away from him. Lun concentrated the energy in his fist and swung. Wang managed to react in time and put up a block. But as soon as the blow reached his arm, Vaughn realized the full extent of Lun's power. He decided to use the qi energy now or never, and after concentrating, he successfully summoned the accumulated qi energy. His face reflected both rage and unthinkable determination. Lun Jiang immediately felt that he had put a block on the Overlord's natural power. Vaughn strained his body to its limit. His eyes were completely white with rage, and his teeth had turned into a snarl. He concentrated pure qi energy into his hand and attacked. The energy ball flew millimeters away from Lun Jian's face and cut off a pair of his luxurious locks. Lun shouted that the guy just couldn't be that strong. Lun grabbed Wang's arm. Vaughn suddenly sensed that something wasn't right. Indeed, he couldn't move. Lun pushed Wang with his other hand so that he could barely stand on his feet. Van clutched his injured shoulder. The rage in his eyes was even stronger than before. But before he could think of his next move, Lun Jiang attacked, punching him right in the chest. The first drops of blood came out of Vaughn's mouth. But Lun Jiang wasn't going to stop there. In midair, he delivered a crushing blow to Vaughn's back. The force sent Wang flying to the ground so fast that a cloud of dust formed around him. But Wang, having managed to get up, was trembling from exhaustion. Sitting on the floor, he spat out the dust that got into his mouth. He was covered in bruises, but he got resolutely to his feet, still shaking, but showing no pain. He folded his hands and conceded defeat. He thanked Uncle Lun for showing mercy. Puffing out his cheeks, Wang muttered that if Uncle Lun had used the dark technique earlier, the insides of his stomach would have turned to mush. Old Man Long walked up to Lun and tapped him on the shoulder, asking for his opinion on his disciple. Lun replied that Wang was good, but lacked experience in close combat. He said that Vaughn wasn't as strong as he was right now. The old man said that it simply couldn't be worse than his students. But Wang casually reminded him that he was technically Zhang Zu's first disciple. Old Man Long got a little angry and told Vaughn to watch his mouth. Wang, looking guilty, asked the old man not to take offense at him. But the old man had already flown up in the air and was shouting Zhang Zu's name. Insult him as much as you can. Lun asked Wang if he really had studied Chinese medicine and acupuncture with Zhang Zu. Wang responded positively. Lun immediately asked how he was doing with these skills. Wang, I try not to brag, said that things are not bad. He is still a disciple of Zhu. Lun, excited, asked with interest if this was true. Wang replied that in any case, he couldn't guarantee that he would say what Lun's illness was. Lun begged him to at least try. Lun replayed in his head that many doctors couldn't tell him what he was sick with. He had heard a lot about Zhang Zu's skills, so he hoped that his disciple would help him. The delicate bonsai leaves swayed slightly in the wind. Wang and Lun were sitting in an open gazebo in the courtyard. Lun placed his right hand on the table in front of Wang. Van felt for a pulse and listened. While he was taking his pulse, Lun was all flustered, and finally, unable to restrain himself, asked how things were going. Wang said clearly and sharply that there didn't seem to be a strange illness. The old man sitting next to him and Lun were greatly surprised by his words. Lun asked what it might be then. Wang said thoughtfully that Uncle Lun must have bowed. The old man looked horrified. He asked again, then bowed. He argued furiously that this wasn't just a feudal superstition. Wang said with confidence that the worship technique actually exists, even though everyone thinks otherwise. He said that the head-down hanging technique is a South Asian sorcery that can save from death, but also lead to it. The old man began to think. He realized that Zhang Ziyu had also caught the disease by accident, and he couldn't find the cause. Lun picked up and said that he also then thought it was a technique of hanging upside down. The old man slammed his hand down hard on the table and shouted, asking who dared to do this to his son, as if the culprit would hear him. The old man was gradually boiling over. He rose from his seat, placing both hands on the table, and also asked the void what the scoundrel's intentions were. Lun said with cold calmness that, given his high rank, such a situation was simply unavoidable. The old man, slightly cooled down, but still beside himself with anger, said that indeed the Dragon Keeper should be strong, and everyone thinks that this is only a plus. It is for this reason that there will always be a lot of enemies. Lun got straight to the point. He asked Wang if he knew of a way to get rid of this ailment. Wang guiltily replied that even though he was a doctor, he had no idea how to treat this disease. He'll only be able to get the caster out, Old Man Long slammed his fist down on the table even harder than before. He gritted his teeth and said that if so, then he had to catch the spellcaster and kill him. Lun said with unprecedented confidence that if he caught the spellcaster, he would grind him to powder no matter who he was. The next day at the Long family's estate, Wang, with his hands folded in front of him and sitting in the lotus position, practiced concentrating and controlling his qi energy. His energy bloomed around him like flowers, growing stronger and stronger. Long Yin sat down and slowly nibbled on the seeds. She was just watching the spectacle. At that moment, one of the maids came over and bowed out, saying that a certain guest wanted to meet them both. Vaughn became very wary when he heard this. He asked the maid if it was the same beauty who was here last time. The maid nodded. Although Vaughn tried not to show how he felt outwardly this time, he was insanely happy to meet her again. Long Yin tapped him on the head to bring him back to his senses and asked him threateningly if that word was really her. Van's black eye was already shining. He sadly asked Long Yin why she beat him up if it wasn't his fault. That girl comes to him by herself. Long Yin folded her arms and turned her head slightly away. She said it was because he called her beautiful. And then, with a change of expression and a frown, she asked defiantly if it would be any problem that she had beaten him. Vaughn was immediately startled by her menacing gaze and quickly said no. Early morning, the first rays of the sun fill the room with a light glow. There is peace and quiet. The girl is sitting, sipping hot, fragrant tea. Lady Qin placed the cup on the table beside her with a light, graceful movement. She said that their meeting with Mr. Wang had happened again. Wang politely asked not to call him master, but rather just by his first name, Wang Yu. Long Yin's eyes widened when she heard what Wang had just said, and she asked him in a faint voice. Poking him under the armpit, she whispered in a commanding voice for Vaughn to keep flirting with her. Poor Wang genuinely didn't understand how this could be considered flirting. He thought what strange girls they were. Lady Qin said that she would call him by his first name from now on. She added that this time, she came to invite him to the feast tonight. The feast will arrive at 6 o'clock in the evening at the Yunlan Inn. Van put on a happy face and said that he would definitely come. He gave me a brief but penetrating look. It was as if he was trying to read her mind. Lady Qin felt his eyes on her and thought to herself how ignorant this guy was. All of a sudden, he lets out that he doesn't hold the girl at all, even though she probably doesn't have any other worries. Then he added with a soft smile that he would be on time today. The girl clenched her fists with such force that all the bumps were visible, she thought to herself. Does he dare to send her away? She had come to visit him from far away, and he dared to treat his guest like this. He hasn't even invited her to tea, and he's kicking her out. While all these thoughts were running through her mind, Vaughn urged her on by asking what she was waiting for. That was the last straw. Lady Qin clenched her jaw tightly and made an incomprehensible sound through her tightly clenched teeth. She quickly turned around and shouted, "Goodbye," after him, and then hurried away. An aura of rage hovered around her as she walked away. Vaughn casually wondered why she was angry. Long Yin, still in the pose with her arms crossed on her chest, said to try to guess. With a grunt, she turned around and left as well. Vaughn let out a heavy sigh as he looked at all of this. By lunchtime, the sun was much stronger. The ornaments of the main gate of the Long family's manor were fully illuminated. A car was waiting at the entrance. The doorman came out and opened the door a crack. An angry Kaiken got into the car. Her face was blank with rage. She quickly barked at the driver to start the car. Holding her head in both hands, she ruffled her hair in a fit of rage. She kept thinking, how dare this simple guy chase her away for the second time? Seeing all this in the mirror, the driver, horrified, cautiously asked what was wrong with her. She shouted in a frenzy of rage that she had met a man who didn't have a bit of a man in him. The greenery of the courtyard garden of the Lan Manor shone with its brightness and freshness. Long Yin and Wang stood and watched the area. Then Long Yin reveals that she is going to go to this banquet with him tonight. Vaughn found her words a little funny. He asked her if she was worried about him. "Put your head on Wang's shoulder." Long Yin nodded sadly. Wang replied that in that case, she could go with him. The girl reminded him to be extremely careful tonight. Van agreed with her. After all, there will be a hall full of people who want him dead. Long Yin gripped his arm tightly, and she said that if it was so dangerous, he didn't need to go there. Vaughn immediately became serious. He said that despite the danger, he had to come to this banquet. After all, it will happen sooner or later anyway. Long Yin gave him conditions that she would support him no matter what. But in return, she has one request. At her words, Vaughn lost the ability to move. He froze like a pillar, not even breathing. He cautiously asked her what the comma was all about and why she was suddenly so serious. Long Yin quickly blurted out that she wanted him to let her go with him. Since it's such a dangerous place, she wants to be close. Vaughn's eyes widened slightly in surprise, but his gaze immediately softened. He put his arm around the girl and said that he agreed to this. Next, the action takes place in the tea house Haoming Xuan. The carved windows of the tea house create a variety of patterns on the floor with the help of sunlight. A young, long-haired gentleman was sitting at a table next to Lord Liu. The Lord was trying to persuade the master to try Hao Yun Xuan tea. He carefully poured the hot, fragrant tea into a cup. The Lord suggested that the master would have a great career this fall if he started by studying the tea ceremony. The master, raising the cup to his mouth and smiling slightly, told him to stop this flattery and just tell him what he really thought. Lord Liu's expression immediately changed. He seriously asked the master if he had heard that Master Long Tu wanted Wang Yu to become the next Dragon Keeper. The master, not at all surprised, said that he had assumed that Long Tu was planning to do this. Liu Yi, very panicked, began to ask the master what they should do in such an emergency. Slowly placing the cup on the table, the young master said that dragons were not a problem. Hearing his words, Liu Yi couldn't believe that such an influential family wouldn't be a problem. After all, this family has protected every owner of the dragon feather for 3 generations of guardians. The owner of the divine dragon feather trusts the dragon family the most. That's a fact. And such a family his master called not problematic? The master continued and said that Zhen Lao's Thanksgiving banquet would be held today. He was sure that Liu Yi knew who it was. The master said that as an elder of the family union, it was Lord Liu's duty to guard the inn where this banquet would be held. This will be his assignment. Lord Liu asked why there was so much need to be careful if no one would go near the Qin family, considering how respected they were. The master got up from his seat and said, "Just do what he says. Then tonight's banquet will be a great success." The gentleman, by the way, asked to allow his fiancée to participate in this dinner. Although he is not interested in the marriage, his father still insists. So the master wants to make this marriage a happy one. Lord Liu congratulated his master because everyone says that his future bride is as beautiful as a fairy. The gentleman clarified that it is not for nothing that she is called the first beauty of Haizhu, but there's only room for one beauty in his heart. Qin Keqing. At the mention of this name, the master's mood visibly dropped. The smile turned wistful. The Lord agreed that Keqing was indeed a beauty, and she will form an alliance with the young master. The slight smile returned to the master's face. He only said how annoying it was a couple of times, laughing a little. Closer to 6 o'clock in the evening, cars arrived at Yunlan Inn one by one. Wang Yu and Long Yin got out of the car at the same time. Long Yin was beautiful in her exquisite soft yellow outfit, and Wang looked very solid in his expensive suit. Seeing the guards at the entrance, Long Yin wondered why there were so many guards here. Old Man Lon explained that there were many reasons for this. First, the status of the Qin family. Second, the presence of various high-ranking officials. And third, just to intimidate. Wang said he was afraid that some people might try to look for hidden meaning here. Long Yin couldn't believe that someone would dare attack Wang in broad daylight. Wang calmly said that no one would dare to do that. The girl turned to face him and said in all seriousness that they would leave immediately after the banquet. The old man confirmed that this would be the best option, but he worries that they won't let them leave so easily. But Van wasn't intimidated. He said they shouldn't be afraid of the enemy being well prepared. And now, the moment has come. It's time to go to the hotel. The security guards at the entrance let them through without difficulty. As they entered, they saw a sumptuous hall before them, richly and tastefully furnished. The guests were already chatting with each other. Wang noted that the location was quite good. Keqing stood at the entrance and thanked each guest for their presence. Van was surprised by this. He couldn't understand how the first beauty of China could greet guests at the entrance. When she saw Master Lan, she greeted him with joy. The old man knew that she had come to their manor and scolded her for not visiting him. The girl replied that both times she really wanted to meet him, but she was never able to meet up. As Wang Yu subtly hinted at her to leave, Wang immediately started making excuses and saying that it was all a lie. He was sure that she had only come to find him. At that moment, Vaughn finally realized the full extent of the fact that women really shouldn't be offended, as they were too scheming and vindictive. The old man was indignant. He reminded Vaughn once again that such a venerable individual shouldn't be kicked out. Wang became nervous and said that he only did it because her mother was worried. He said, "I just didn't want to take care of myself." Keqing on herself reacted with disbelief to these words. In her mind, she started cursing Vaughn, calling him a vile liar. She decided to change the subject and asked the old man if it was true that Wang had become his disciple. The old man bragged and said it was true. Keqing replayed in her mind that if she knew all of Wang's trump cards and could help him, then it would greatly help the Qin dynasty. But she decided not to rush it yet. Clinging to Wang's arm, Long Yin proudly declared that he was also her future fiancé. Van laughed nervously. Keqing couldn't believe her ears that the couple was already engaged, and the old man, smiling maliciously, said that this was also concluded by the enemy 3 years ago. Suddenly, an unfamiliar feeling appeared in Keqing. This was something she'd never felt before. It was a feeling of frustration. The old man said goodbye to his niece and said that it was time for them to move on. Kaiken, completely forgetting, said that the banquet hall was on the second floor. Wang, Long Yin, and Master Long went to the second floor. But Kaiken called out to Wang and asked him to stay for a moment and talk about something. Vaughn hesitated, but agreed that he could stay and talk. Long Yin's anger flared up. She turned a comma and looked at him with a menacing look. Asked what he could do there, Van, startled. Gave a quick squeal and said nothing at all. The old man grabbed Long Yin's hand and pulled her aside, insistently asking her to accompany him. When they were alone, Vaughn asked Kaiken what she wanted to talk about. Kaiken admitted that these guards weren't from the Qin family and he should be more careful. Van, smiling foolishly, asked if that was all she wanted to talk about. He said that she was standing at the door on purpose just to warn him. Vaughn was touched by the concern. Kaiken was infuriated by his arrogance. She wanted to start an internal monologue about how untrue it was. But then, with a blush, she realized that really, she was standing at the door just for that. She couldn't understand exactly when she started showing such concern towards Wang Yu. Is it really conscience? Clutching her heart, she thought it might be something else. Suddenly determined, she told Vaughn that she would try her best to protect him today. Vaughn quietly said, "Thank you." He walked over to Kaiken, took her hands in his and held them to his chest. He apologized for kicking her out. She has been so kind to him, but he is well aware that she is responsible for the Qin dynasty. Leaning close to her ear, Vaughn softly whispered that the real reason was that he thought she was taking too long. He added that in addition, it is so beautiful that the second one in the whole world cannot be found. Kaiken blushed at the words. Vaughn lightly twirled one of her curls around his finger and gently released it. As he left, he grinned and waved at her. He said that he would definitely invite her to dinner sometime to apologize again. Kaiken was left alone with her feelings. Her heart was pounding so fast it was almost bursting out of her chest. Her face turned bright red. As she watched Vaughn climb the stairs and gradually walk away, she tried to process what had happened. Twirling the same curl around her finger, she assured herself that it was definitely flirting. But why was this flirtation so pleasant to her? Had she really gone mad? On the second floor, a luxurious banquet hall was waiting for guests. Crystal chandeliers, tables bursting with treats, and the pleasant smell of flowers. The old man suggested that Wang walk over to Old Man Qin together. Walking closer to him, Old Man Long greeted Big Brother Qin. Delighted by his arrival, Qin Sr. noted that Long had taken the time to take care of the Qin family's reputation. Old Long shyly thanked him for the honor of attending the banquet. He invited Qin Sr. to his place next time. They laughed together and exchanged pleasantries. But when Old Man Qin saw Wang, he immediately recognized his savior. Master Lan quickly called Vaughn over. Everyone in the hall started talking about how he managed to save Elder Qin. Placing his hand on Wang's shoulder, Old Qin proudly introduced his savior to everyone present, without whom he wouldn't be standing here right now. He added that now, if this young man encountered any difficulties along the way, the Qin family members would collectively lend him a helping hand. In the end, he said that he would completely lose confidence in those who refused to help Vaughn. Vaughn was more than flattered by his words. He was just over the moon, as if the Qing family would actually do such a thing. But when he quickly came to his senses, he realized that he was not doing this for the sake of a reward, since this is his duty. Wang slapped his hands on his thighs and struck a soldier's pose. He turned to the elder. I bowed deeply and thanked him from the bottom of my heart. Elder Qin had told him that it wasn't worth thanking him for. Old Man Long continued to brag about his disciple and his granddaughter's future husband. Everyone in the audience was taken aback by his words. Everyone was shocked at how lucky Wang was to marry Elder Long's granddaughter and be his last disciple. Surrounding Wang on all sides, the elders and representatives of other families began to introduce themselves and praise him. Not far from the long-haired lady, the master and Lord Liu were watching all of this. Liu said that he didn't even think that the others would support Wang. It seems to him that these two old men aren't even paying attention to the young master. The young master held his face, but it was obvious that he was very annoyed by his words. Liu Yi immediately realized this. He apologized for what he'd said, and the young master advised him to keep calm, because the higher Wang got, the more painful it would be for him to fall. Lord Liu agreed with his master's wise words. Kaitsun followed the others up to the second floor. After seeing all the hype surrounding Wang, she asked the guards what was the matter. The guard explained everything that had happened to her. Kekin thought it wasn't surprising since Wang was the husband of Elder Long's granddaughter. She mentally shamed him for flirting with her as a fiancé. He's just a womanizer and nothing more. Suddenly, the phone in her purse rang. Someone called her to the entrance, as there were several other guests to meet. Kaisen was slightly surprised, since all the invited guests were already in place. But without suspecting anything wrong, she went to the exit. Old Man Lon asked for the guests' attention and reminded them that it was time for a drink and lunch. Everyone supported his idea. Sitting down at the table, Old Man Long invited Wang to sit next to him. Suddenly, a strange young man approached Wang and called out his name. Van didn't recognize him. He waved happily and was surprised that Wang didn't recognize him at all. It took Vaughn a second to look at the young man's face, and he immediately recognized him. Vaughn threw himself into his arms, shouting what he hadn't expected to see. He was visited by Zhao Wutian himself. Zhao Zhao, laughing until he cried, kept repeating how little Wang Yu had grown up, that he didn't even recognize him right away. Old Long asked Wang who the young man was. Wang replied that it was his friend and brother. Zhao Hao bowed in reverence and said that he was a junior in the Zhao dynasty. Old man Lon invited him to sit down with them. Zhao immediately began to praise Wang Yu, saying that he was now an enviable son-in-law, and many of his friends admired him. Zhao asked Wang for permission to introduce him to his friends. Wang happily agreed, saying that Zhao's friends and his friends were too. Zhao smiled maliciously at Wang Yu's naivete. He immediately called his acquaintances to the table. He introduced Wang to his friends. Standing up, Zhao told everyone that his friend Wang was a real hero. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he mentioned that he was Wang Chenyi's son. Glasses fell from the hands of the assembled people. Shards and leftovers of wine flew in all directions. Wang turned pale with fear. He hadn't expected his friend to say such a thing. People immediately surrounded him and began to reproach him for the fact that his father was a suicide who killed himself in order not to admit his mistakes. Old Man Qin and the others immediately joined in and shouted that it was all a hoax and a devious plan. Everyone made a unanimous decision to stay away from Wang. Lord Liu, after hearing all this scuffle, understood the true meaning of Master's words. The gentleman, with cold calmness, advised me to just enjoy the performance. As Vaughn stood up from his seat, all he could think about was how his youth friend could have betrayed him like this. He grabbed Zhao by the scruff of the neck and pulled her close. Showing all his anger, Wang whispered to Zhao that he wanted to slap him as hard as he could. Zhao, smiling and laughing wryly, called him a nutcase. He casually called Wang his brother and scolded him for threatening him. Van laughed at his words. Not today. After dismissing Zhao, he asked not to insult such a good and kind word. And then Zhao broke loose. He started shouting that Wang was just like his father or even worse than him. He's done so much good, and Van speaks so highly of him. Wang, trying to remain calm, leaned on the arm of the chair and reassured Zhao that he would not hit him. He sat back down in his seat and said soberly that he knew perfectly well that those people were a trap. Zhao was shocked that Wang had already guessed everything, but he hadn't made any mistake. According to Zhao's plan, Wang should have already beaten him up, and then he would have carried out his plan. Wang said the guards were called by those people over there. If he had started a fight, he would have been caught by security. And since this is a Qin Thanksgiving banquet, disobeying would be punishable by death. Wang narrowed his eyes and frowned as he asked Zhao if he was right. Zhao fell into a wild panic. Vaughn had just figured out his plan inside and out. Wang asked him if he thought it was a stupid plan. Zhao began to advance and asked what he would benefit from this. Wang, without flinching for a second, said that Zhao's death would be a benefit. Then they could have dealt with him as they wished and without questions. Jed realized that Wang was right. Zhao wept and shouted that he didn't want to die. Vaughn asked him if he thought about what they would do to him after completing the plan. When Zhao regained control of himself, he found that he couldn't afford to be confused, and suddenly he laughed very loudly, so loud that it could be heard all over the hall. He was laughing furiously. Afterward, he said that even though Wang had just saved his life, he had insulted him, and there was nothing he could do. Zhao stopped looking human. He had a certain bestial, frenzied grin. He said that the day had finally arrived when he had shamed him, and there was nothing Vaughn could do. Wang smiled gently and said that he just thought Zhao was pathetic. Zhao kept yelling that he hated his lies. Zhao shouted that Wang had been a hypocrite since childhood. He said that when they were in the company of people together, everyone always knew that Wang was better. Vaughn always faked his modesty, and he only felt humiliated by it. Tears welled up in Zhao. He continued his tirade, almost crying. He said that he had always been in Wang's shadow and suffered for him. Even his parents had told him that Wang was much better, smarter, and more talented. Zhao shouted that he hated Wang wholeheartedly, even agreeing to his death. Vaughn closed his eyes and exhaled, saying that he never knew he was so blind, and called him his brother. He never thought that Zhao's character would change so much for the worse. Zhao asked Wang if his words were enough to hurt him. Wang explained to Zhao with icy calm that he had chosen the wrong way to deal with him. Right now, Zhao had only caused a stir at the banquet, which had damaged the Qin family's reputation. Van continued, he said that Zhao either made a punching bag out of himself with these actions and still manages to jump happily. Today, to get out of the hotel alive, he will now have to rely only on himself. Zhao realized the horror of the situation he was in. His lips curled in fear, and his pupils narrowed to tiny dots. Elder Qin sat silently and just glared at him. Zhao realized that he was trapped and wished he hadn't listened to anyone at all. Elder Qin turned to the guards and nodded. Security understood what needed to be done. They needed to capture the angry Zhao. Zhao was shaking with fear and begged not to kill him. One of the guards simply punched him in the face. Then he asked Mr. Qin what they should do next with Zhao. Well, the elder replied that first you need to get him out of here, and then they can do what they want. The guards dragged the crippled Zhao towards the exit, dragging him by both legs. Mr. and Lord Liu sat and watched Zhao being carried out of the building. Lord Liu asked the master if he was afraid that Zhao would betray them. Liu said that he was very sorry that Wang Yu did not beat Zhao, but made this scene with the help of Qin and Long. The master laughed and asked Liu if he said Zhao was his man. Lord Liu was simply shocked. He asked if it wasn't his man, if he had made a mistake. The gentleman swung his cup of tea from side to side. He said, "Can't he arrange the pieces however he wants?" Lord Liu understood. In fact, the master had asked his people to contact Zhao Wutian, and in that case, even if he gave them away, no one would know about the master's interference. Liu Yi began to praise his master admiringly. He was just really sorry that Wang Yu didn't fall for their trap, but the gentleman was not at all upset by the outcome of events. He said cryptically that all the fun was yet to come. A strange girl, entering the main hall, immediately discovered Wang Yu. She said that since he dumped her on a blind date, finding him was easy. Apparently, the stranger and her grandfather saw the whole fight. The girl complained that it was the same Wang who left her. She was surprised that despite the insults, he was still sitting there. Grandpa pointed out that Wang wasn't so easy to keep calm in such a situation. Lady Qin, who was standing nearby, also admitted that Wang was quite smart and more quick-witted than his peers. The girl became angry with them, saying that Elder Lin and Lady Qin thought too highly of him. Kekin was surprised that she knew Wang Yu. The girl replied that she didn't just know him, but that they had a special bond with him. Kaisen begged her to elaborate. Holding her head high, the girl said that she couldn't tell him, and in general, she wasn't interested in him. Kekin chimed in and said he annoyed her too. Mrs. Lin asked him what he had done to her. Kekin said she wouldn't say exactly the same thing as Ms. Lin. Kekin laughed, and Mrs. Lin called it mean. Old Man Lin admitted that Wang Yu wasn't bad at all, but unfortunately, no matter how much Elders Qin and Long tried to promote him, this little scene ruined everything. Kekin was interested in watching Vaughn's next move. Mrs. Lin asked her if she wanted to watch him. Kaisen replied that her father still wanted her to support him at the banquet. She said it was her father's way of thanking him for saving her, but she wants to test her father's savior first. Mrs. Lin was delighted with such a convoluted plan. Old Man Qin got up from the table and asked for attention. He said that he admits that he is really at fault. The people around them began to talk furiously. Old Man Long told him that it wasn't his fault because someone sent Zhao. Long Yin shouted that the person who had done all this should be shot. Van also rose from his seat. He asked the elders permission to say something to those present. Vaughn knew in his heart that he now had to fix things on his own so that he wouldn't lose face in front of the elders. Old Man Qin was sure that this conversation wouldn't fix anything since people were already aware of his background. Old Man Long told him to give Wang a chance. Old Man Qin nodded approvingly and allowed Wang to speak. Wang decided to go up the steps to the stage. After walking up to the stage, Wang began his speech with a greeting. He said he was well aware that he had ruined everyone's mood. He bowed and expressed his deepest regrets. Someone in the crowd shouted that an apology wouldn't change anything. Long Yin was beside herself with their duplicity. They were just sucking up to him a few minutes ago, and now they're turning their noses up at him. Wang said that everyone already knew exactly who his father was, and he was trying to hide this information on purpose. From the very beginning, he thought that everyone would recognize him immediately. Back then, in Beijing, many people sent assassins after him. Vaughn was extremely surprised that all these people at the banquet didn't recognize him, even though they made so much noise. He was even a little disappointed. The crowd burst out laughing at that. The elders were discussing among themselves how well Wang had managed to get out of it by laughing at his enemies. Long Yin was overjoyed with her fiancé. Lord Liu shouted that Wang Yi was bullying them. His master had a bad feeling about this. Sisters Qin and Lin were also discussing Wang and his performance. Lin suspected that Kekin had some unpleasant history with him. Kexen denied it. Wang continued his speech. He said that most of those present knew his father as a plague from which there was no escape. He said the reason was clear. Most likely, his father just offended someone who shouldn't be offended. And the power of that man and his family is quite amazing. Wang said that everyone is simply afraid of this power, which is why everyone opposes Wang Chenyi. He said that everyone was just blackening his father's conscience, making a villain out of the hero, completely forgetting all his merits. He asked those present if their conscience was in order after this. As one, the people fell silent. Lord Liu was furious. He didn't like the fact that Vaughn had changed people's minds at all. Mr. Lin, who was watching from afar, realized how amazing Wang Yu was. He said that if Wang wanted to follow him, his future was assured. Old Man Qin told Old Man Long how lucky he was to have a disciple. He decided to ask him for a favor. Old Man Lon said to ask for anything. Chin started by saying that his daughter was already in her 30s and still unmarried. He asked Old Man Lon if he could give him Wang as a son-in-law. A flame of rage immediately flared up in Long Yin. There was a feeling that it caught fire right on the spot. Chin defended himself and said that he was just joking. Knowing full well Long Yin's attitude towards him, Old Man Chin knew that if she had given up on politeness, then he wouldn't be able to find a son-in-law. Long Yin put on her cheeks and assumed the posture of a resentful girl. Wang went on to tell how at the age of 8, his father promised to congratulate him, but broke the promise. On someone's orders, he went on a mission. And then Van was standing at his gravestone, realizing that he had lost his father. The investigator in the case of his father posthumously brought him to justice for treason. Van He wept at tombstones at night and asked his father how he could have betrayed his country. Wang finally broke down in tears and ended his speech by saying that this story didn't deserve such an ending. Everyone present was crying their eyes out. They began to support his father and shout that he was a real hero. Everyone said that they would never believe that he had given them their homeland again. Someone quietly asked if they were afraid of angering important people, but all of them sternly replied that they were telling the absolute truth, and no one would be able to shut them up. The entire crowd raised their hands and shouted in unison, praising Father Wang. Wang, watching all this, once again shed tears of delight and thanked everyone in the audience. He hurriedly turned away so that no one could see his tears. He sobbed harder than ever, still muttering his thanks. The two elders also burst into tears. They told each other to stop crying, but they kept going. Lin told Kekin that he must have passed her little test. Looking at Vaughn's sobbing, Kekin never imagined that she would smile at a man who had infuriated her. She didn't know that he was hiding such a tragedy. Mr. Lin said that he really felt sorry for the young man. He asked Lin to ask Wang if he would be willing to become his disciple. Lin was very surprised because her father had never wanted to be someone's master before, but for Wang, he decided to make an exception. She asked him if that meant he would support Vaughn as well. The elder nodded. Kekin realized that the Qin, Lin, and Long families were already on Wang's side. She felt that Wang had surpassed the Murong family. Elder Lin noticed that Kekin was paying special attention to everything that had happened. Snapping her out of her reverie, the elder made her panic. She immediately blushed and made excuses, but in her heart, she knew very well that she was really interested in Vaughn. Lin asked her if she really liked him, and she knew exactly why. Kekin was very embarrassed and blushed even more. Lin teased her and said she was as red as a tomato. Kekin wondered if she really liked him. She shook her head, trying to come to her senses. She wondered if this was all nonsense after all. They've only met a few times, so it must be an illusion. Lin continued to laugh as she noticed Kekin blushing even more. Kekin said threateningly that she would be angry if Lin Qing continued to laugh like this. Lin apologized and said that she wouldn't do it again and asked her not to be angry. She said that since Kekin didn't need it, then let her give it to her. Kekin asked in surprise, "Does she like him too?" Lin said she just wanted to know why he didn't go on a blind date with her. She wondered why he hadn't wanted to see her, even though she hadn't rejected him. Wang once again thanked the audience for their kindness to his father, and Yi said that he wanted to restore justice. He pointedly said that he deeply hoped that there were no enemies present. Everyone shouted that they had done nothing wrong to the hero, but Wang, knowing full well that his enemies were here, said that he was not afraid and would fight to the end. Lord Lu slammed his fist down on the table and insulted Wang. Van was very interested in the gentleman. He admitted that he was now a worthy opponent. Glancing at his watch, the gentleman said that he was going to meet his grandfather. He told Liu to bring his fiancée. Lord Liu bowed and left. Mr. Murong stood up and walked towards the exit. The people around them began to talk. Was young Master Murong really here all this time? Mr. Murong met Wang Yu's gaze. The tension between them grew. Mr. Lin, his daughter, and Kekin were standing at the entrance. Mr. Murong greeted them, saying that he didn't know Elder Lin would be here as well. Mr. Lin said that he only arrived a couple of days ago. Mr. Murong also greeted little sister Lin. He told Kason that he was going to meet his grandfather. She said that since he had arrived, she would go with him. He agreed. People began to whisper as they discussed the beauty of Kekin Chin and Murong Su's couple. Hearing all this talk, Old Man Chin jumped up from his seat, slammed his fist on the table, and called Murong insignificant, saying that he would never give up his daughter for him. He immediately offered to woo his daughter, Wang Yu. He hadn't expected this at all. At the suggestion, he stumbled and fell down the stairs to the floor. Sitting on the floor, Vaughn told the old man not to joke around like that, or else there would be big problems. One look at Long Yin and Vaughn got goosebumps. Master Long also slammed his hand down on the table and said that he couldn't steal his son-in-law just like that. Old Man Chin said he didn't care, especially since Lonya's daughter hadn't married him yet. Wang, who was watching all this, gradually stood up. Old Man Chin asked Wang if he wanted to or not. Van considered his answer. If he said yes, Old Lon would kill him. If he said no, he would humiliate Old Man Chin. Old Man Lin chimed in. He asked Chin why he was so angry. Old Man Chin turned his attention to him and greeted him, not expecting to see him here. Everyone in the hall also began to greet Mr. Lin. The old man said that Wang was very lucky if everyone wanted him as a son-in-law. Everyone began to discuss the fact that Elder Lin also wanted to take him on as a disciple. Wang, hearing this, thought that if he became his disciple, and with the support of the Qin family and the Long Yi Lin family, then he would be able to compete with the Murong family. Wagging his tail like a dog, Wang happily agreed. Old Man Lin said that he could teach him calligraphy now. But Vaughn was well aware that this wasn't just about calligraphy. He suspected that Master Lin wanted to clear a path for him. Old Man Lin said that he wouldn't bother Wang anymore. He invited everyone to return to their seats. Lin walked over to him and asked him to sit next to her. Van simply melted when he saw her. He said she was really beautiful. Just as Lin was waiting for this, she realized that he was just like all the other guys. Wang said that she could sit next to him without any problems, but Long Yin said that she didn't agree. Wang quickly apologized to Lin and said that his fiancé didn't allow it. Even so, Lin still sat down next to his chair. Vaughn told her that it would look indecent. Old Man Chin realized that now Yilin wanted to steal Master Long's son-in-law. Old Man Lin advised everyone to leave them alone, as they would sort it out on their own. Lin whispered something in Wang's ear. Van's face changed in surprise. Long Yin immediately asked what Lin had said. Lin giggled nervously, said nothing, and suggested that everyone start eating. According to her, Wang realized that this is his date from a blind date. Kekin and Murong arrived at the main entrance. He tried to explain to her that his family had forced him to marry. He hasn't even seen the bride yet. But his grandfather is interested in this marriage. He asked her not to take things too personally, as she would be arriving soon. Kekin thought how unromantic he was. She smiled and said she understood. A car pulled up to the entrance and stopped. An elderly man got out. Murong greeted his grandfather. Kekin also greeted him. Mr. Murong asked how her dad was doing. She replied that everything was fine with him and invited him in. And she went inside herself. Murong's grandfather told him not to get involved with that Qin family girl anymore. He threatened his grandson that if he mistreated his chosen bride, he would never forgive him, because this is the daughter of a very good friend of his. Murong Su reassured Grandpa and said that he would take care of Ningshui. Old Man Murong suggested that we go inside. He asked where Ningshui was now. Murong Su replied that she should be inside by now. He noticed that she was wearing a beautiful dress. That was why she couldn't go out and meet him. Old Man Murong said it was fine. For a woman, the main thing is beauty. Inside, in the hall, Lord Liu tearfully begged Ningshui to finally let Wang Yu go. He begged her to let go of him, because Master and young Master Murong would be coming soon. Ningshui refused to let Wang Yu go. She only tightened her grip on him. Van asked her what she was doing here. Enraged, Long Yin said that she would go to the bathroom to calm down. Ningshui burst into tears, saying that she thought she wouldn't see him again. Van tried to calm her down. Privately, he thought that he should be the one crying now, not her. Lord Liu was thinking about how he should tell the young master all about this. If he says that his fiancé is now in the arms of another guy, and that guy is also Wang Yu, then he will not live. Ningshui grabbed a chair nearby. She set it down and placed Vaughn on it, sitting on his lap. Vaughn once again asked her why she was here. Ningshui said that as soon as he left, her father arranged for her to marry a Murong family master. She couldn't do anything and couldn't escape. So she's here now? She continued to complain as she wrapped her arms around Vaughn's neck. Ningshui said that she tried to resist, run away, and cry. But her father dragged her here. Wang immediately assumed that Murong Su was her fiancé. The idea of him hugging his fiancé now made Vaughn absolutely ecstatic. Watching all this, Lin scolded him. Master and young master. Murong entered the hall together with Kekin through the main entrance. After seeing this beautiful painting, Master Murong realized how offensive it was to their family. He asked his grandson about Wang and Ningshui's relationship. Murong Su told him that he didn't know. Wasn't he the one who arranged this wedding for him? Kekin thought to herself that Wang was even more interesting than she thought, since he knew Murong Su's fiancé. The old man told Keichin that he wouldn't meet her father today and said goodbye. He and young Master Murong left the inn together. Keichin was well aware of how dire this situation was. After this, the Murong family will definitely decide to take revenge on Wang. She went to Mr. Qin and told him that Master and young Master Murong were here, but when they saw him, they all turned around and left. The elders began to talk among themselves. Wang asked Lin to keep an eye on Ningshui. She happily agreed and said that she would help fix her makeup. Ningshui immediately agreed and rushed to the washroom. The same black-tinted car pulled up outside the hotel. The young master put the master in there. Old man Murong said to step on the gas. He decided to call his son and ask about what had happened. The driver handed him the phone. The old man dialed the number and began to shout into the phone at his son that he called him problems. Murong Yang, who who didn't understand anything, asked what had happened. Young Master Murong is all on the other side of the car. Lord Liu was leading her. The young master praised him. Lord Liu suggested that he might have misheard, looking at Murong Su in the mirror. He knew that Murong Su wasn't lying. He still didn't understand why his master had praised him. At this time, at the banquet, Wang, looking the old men in the face, said that sooner or later he would have to do it. He asked them to remove their masks at last. Old man Lan agreed with him. He said that Murong Sr. actually saw everything that was happening to Ning Shui. And he, as everyone knows, cares very much about his pride. If he decided to risk everything and attack Vaughn, it would be a bit creepy considering the strength in his hands. He's like a puppet master controlling puppets. Old man Qin confirmed Master Long's words. Indeed, the Murong family's strength has only increased in recent years. They have become much more dangerous and influential. He said that considering all of old man Murong's caution, it would be extremely difficult to find his weak points. If they do decide to fight, it will be very, very difficult. Wang asked Qin if his father's misunderstandings would be big news in the very year he died. The old man nodded and agreed. He said that if there is evidence, it could be big news. Van sighed heavily. He said it was a pity, because he had been searching for evidence for years and found nothing. He said it was very difficult to investigate the case. All the elders abruptly fell silent. There was an awkward silence. After the Thanksgiving banquet, all the guests gradually dispersed to their cars. Kekin walked past Wang and told him that she didn't know he was such a Lovelace. She said it with a face like she'd seen a ghost. Vaughn didn't understand anything she said. He thought to himself, he's not a lady's man at all. After the banquet, at the Long family's manor, Ning Sui was resting peacefully on the bed of the guest house, and the silky hair spread out on the pillow in beautiful patterns. She looked very peaceful and calm. Van sat on the edge of the bed. He asked her how cruel her father could be that he was forcing her to marry like this. He gently touched her cheek and brushed a lock of hair from her face. He guessed that her father's personality change was triggered by the Murong family's exorbitant strength. As Wang opened the doors of the cabin and stepped out into the courtyard, he noticed Long Yin waiting for him at the entrance. He laughed and asked her if she was waiting for him just because she thought he would do something to Ning Sui. Long Yin replied briefly and clearly that this was the reason. Vaughn wondered to himself if she thought he was some kind of animal. Aren't they supposed to trust each other implicitly? They're lovers. Wang asked her if she wanted to hear his explanation. She told me to go with her to the room. They went into a sunlit room. Sitting down on the bed, Ning Shui loosened her tie a little. She said that now that they were alone, he could tell her everything. Vaughn sat down on the chair opposite and slowly told her everything. In conclusion, after the story, he added that he considers Ningxi only as his sister. Long Yin sighed deeply and heavily. She asked him if he really didn't understand or if he was just playing dumb. Long Yin said that he wanted to think of Ningxi as his sister, since she was head over heels in love with him. Vaughn looked dumbfounded upon hearing these words. He shook his head violently and said that he didn't want to accept it. In his mind's eye, he remembered that every time he was with her, they would always fight. In that case, it's better for them to be enemies. Long Yin said that then she wouldn't worry if he only considered Ning Shui as his sister. But as a girl, it is extremely unpleasant for her that Ning Shui is in love with him. Van asked her if she was thinking too much. Long Yin turned her head away, crossed her arms, and said that she really hoped so. Vaughn, who finally understood the whole situation, told her that she was just jealous. He said that even if he jumped over the Yellow River, he probably wouldn't be able to wash away his sins. Vaughn also loosened his tie and said that he just couldn't talk to her like this. He moved abruptly toward the bed. When he got close, he hugged Long Yin and said that it was time to take some action. He thought about what people had found out. That women love to cry, turn in problems, and sell. But men love 3 things: kisses, hugs, and a few other things. Wang lightly touched Long Yin's nose as he smiled and told her not to worry. He would deal with Ning Shui. He said I should believe him. Long Yin, her face red with embarrassment, said that she trusted him. She also asked Vaughn sheepishly if it was comfortable for him to stand with his arm around her like this. He said he was fine. Long Yin looked at him with innocent eyes and asked what he would do next. Vaughn wondered to himself, what was she trying to imply? Long Yin was already sitting up on the bed. Also soft and beautiful, Vaughn thought this was definitely a hint for the next step. Long Yin put her finger to her lips and started to say what they would do next. She said they were going to bed. Vaughn hadn't expected this turn of events at all. Long Yin kicked Wang out of her room. Sticking out her tongue, she said that she didn't know what was on his mind. So let him only dream. She slammed the door shut. Wang was completely distraught. He said that he would never understand the logic of women in his life. In the early hours of the next morning, Wang practiced with his qi energy. In the martial arts venue, he was sitting on the floor in a lotus position. Pure qi energy hovered around him. Wang finally finished training. managing to complete 8 small laps in just 1 week. Many fighters spent months doing this, Van thought. He said out loud what a genius he was and praised himself, and Old Man Long was indignantly asking him if it was necessary to show off every day in front of him. The old man told him to take a quick shower and then eat breakfast. Van shot off like a bullet. Left to himself, the old man noted that Van's skills were so good that they made people envious. He was thinking in anticipation of the moment when he would complete a large circle of energy and learn how to use it, and then he would teach him a martial art. He wondered what heights Wang would be able to reach. The old man, after thinking it all over, went into the house. After an indeterminate amount of time, the sun had already fully risen. Van happily stated that he felt much better after showering. The master's phone was ringing in his hands at that moment. It wasn't that he didn't have a face, but it was as if his soul had long since left Kama's body and only a shell remained. The old man held the phone in his hands and was trembling with fear. Van began to shake the master by the shoulders and try to bring him to his senses. He was asking what had happened. Old Man Lon replied that he had just received a call. He was told that Long Zhang was in critical condition. Van was now panicking as well. He asked, "Is Long Zhang sick?" He'd seen him a few days ago and he was absolutely fine. Why would he suddenly feel so much worse? Van realized that it was all a matter of hanging upside down technique. The old man grabbed Wang's hand and looked at him with a pleading look and asked if he could save his son. Van told Master to get up as they needed to go to the hospital urgently. He said he would check on Zhang first. He thought to himself that he didn't even know if he could save him. Before long, they were at the Longhai City Hospital. A crowd of people stood outside the operating room. They greeted Master Lon. The old man immediately started asking what was up with Long Zhang. He was extremely nervous. The doctor told him that his next words might be sad, but he would need to be prepared. The doctor said that Long Zhang is in a very critical condition, and the prognosis is not optimistic at all. The old man begged the doctor for one request. The doctor replied that he was listening to him. He asked the doctor if he could let Wang go to the operating room. The old man said that Wang would be able to help. When the doctor asked who it was, the old man replied that it was his student. The doctor was very surprised that Master Lon had a disciple. The old man said he was also his son-in-law. The doctor mentally scolded himself for always judging people by their appearance. Wang introduced himself to the doctor and said that he was a military doctor in the Chinese armed forces. He said he had experience and would be able to help his uncle. He asked the doctor to let him into the operating room. The doctor replied that you would only be allowed in if you took all the necessary precautions. He said that it would be necessary to listen to the chief physician, a famous physician. Van thanked him. A short time later, Wang was wearing a beanie, mask, gloves, and an operating gown. He was well aware that no one believed in his skills. Before Wang had even taken a step into the operating room, he heard the doctors pronouncing him dead. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He asked the doctors what was the matter. The doctors said there was nothing more they could do. It die. Van couldn't believe that such a strong person would just die like this. Such people don't just die. He asked the doctors to wait a little longer. Van was very serious. Van just stood silently by the operating table for a while. He asked the doctor how much adrenaline they had injected into Long Zhang's heart. The doctor said they gave him 0.5 milligram and then tried to resuscitate him for 48 minutes. The patient had a heart attack. Van knew that cardiac resuscitation usually took 30 minutes. After that, as a rule, the patient loses all signs of life. Van realized that it was too late and there was no way to save him. One of the doctors was very indignant that he answered the questions of some unknown young man. He's the doctor here, not Van. He asked Wang which branch he worked in and who had given him permission to enter. Van wasn't listening to the questions at all. He was checking his pulse. The patient had no pulse. Van knew that if there was no pulse, then the person was already dead. But he just refused to believe it. Long Zhang couldn't die like this. He had to live. The doctor started yelling at Van to answer his questions or get out of here. Wang yelled at the doctor to shut up. The doctor was intimidated to the core by Van's bestial gaze. The other doctors noticed it too. Wang held Long Zhang's hand tightly. Falling to his knees in front of the couch, he cried and begged Long Zhang not to die. But the lifeless body was also lying on the couch. Van just cried quietly. Well, suddenly he heard something. He could feel Long Zhang's heartbeat. Immediately, he quickly realized that Long Zhang might still be saved. He just needed to prove it somehow. Feeling for a pulse, Van was relieved. He knew that Long Zhang wouldn't die here. Van started replaying in his head why Long Zhang had a pulse every 20 seconds. And he realized that he must have purposely used external energy to hold his breath. After all, if he is declared dead, then his enemies will finally leave him alone. Wang realized that death was the key to life for Long Zhang. Wang finally turned to the doctor and confirmed that the patient was dead. He apologized for his behavior and said that he was just worried about his uncle. The doctor patted Wang lightly on the shoulder and said that he understood. Vaughn was dramatically and artificially wiping away his dripping tears. He thanked the doctors. Vaughn knew that if the doctors pronounced Longzhang dead, the caster would believe it. All the doctors, along with Wang, came out of the operating room after a while. The doctor, who was standing in the hallway, asked if it was all right. The surgeon sadly announced that the patient was dead, and I didn't do my best. Everyone present was simply shocked. Old man Long couldn't stay on his feet and fell to the ground. Van caught it in mid-stride. The old man's tears began to flow. He asked Wang if his son was really dead. All Vaughn could think about was that he couldn't tell the truth right now. Everyone present is just waiting for this news and will immediately try to kill him. So Wang wept and said that he was really dead. Hearing this, the old man burst into tears, lost his balance, and fell to the floor. His eyes closed peacefully. He just laid down quietly on the floor, as if nothing existed around him. Everyone immediately ran over to see what had happened. It had been a while since Longzhang's death. The garden still glistened in the sun's rays with its bright colors. Shouting and running all over the courtyard, Wang was running away from Old Man Lon with a stick in his hand. Vaughn kept running, shouting at the old man that he just couldn't tell him the truth right away. The old man paused for a moment. The old man asked him if he suspected how ill he was at that time. If he had told the truth, things would have been different. Van said that at least everything worked out as it should, and everyone believed that he was dead. But her old man wouldn't let up and shouted that he should have told him first. Vaughn tried to explain that if he had told the truth right away, then the old man wouldn't have been sad so plausibly. His words didn't stop the old man, and he also continued to run all over the courtyard after Vaughn. Half an hour later, they were sitting in the living room. They were both sitting side by side on the sofa. They were exhausted from the chase, and they were out of breath, trying to catch their breath. The old woman started to say that Longzhang's body parts would only last for half a month, and then he might actually die if they started to decompose. Vaughn said that this way, they should be able to find the caster in half a month. The old man wondered where to find it. Wang noticed something strange and told the old man about it. Yesterday at the banquet, the Murong family was disgraced, and today, Longzhang's health, why did you suddenly deteriorate? The old man said that it made sense, but they didn't have any evidence against Murong. Vaughn assumed it was revenge for personal reasons, not just revenge. The old man asked, "Does he mean that Murong wants to take the position of guardian?" The old man cursed and called him an idiot. The old man said that he didn't have the opportunity to become a dragon guardian because every guardian had to be chosen by the Long family. This rule was laid down by the first guardian of the Chinese dragon. Master Long's father then handed the post over to him, and he in turn handed the post over to Longzhang. The next guardian must be from the Lon family. Van wondered who could be the next guardian. The old man reflected that Lon Tang had all the necessary skills, but with his character, he couldn't be considered for this position. In addition, it is not strong enough for this post. The old man pointed at Wang Yu. Vaughn smiled and said that if there were no obstacles, then he could become a guardian. But he is afraid that the other families will call him an outsider and not accept him. The old man realized that he was right. After all, Wang Yu doesn't belong to the Long family. Some may take advantage of this opportunity and start a war. Wang quickly reassured the master and said that if they didn't have a suitable candidate, the league would definitely hold a martial arts competition. And at the martial arts competitions, he will win with almost 100% probability. The old man agreed that if there was a contest, the post would be handed over to Wang. Holding him by the shoulders, the old man said that he was very hopeful and relying on Wang. Wang resolutely said that the old man had nothing to worry about. It was deep into the night. The moon illuminated the surroundings with a translucent light. Explosions sounded somewhere nearby and fire broke out. Wang ran out of the house and couldn't understand what was going on. When he decided to look at the source of the explosions, he was almost blinded by the dust. Someone from the Lon family also ran outside. He said the explosions were extensive and it was not safe outside right now. They broke out twice in a row, in which case many people from the factory may die. Wang agreed that the Long family was in danger. After these explosions, the next morning gave everyone a sunny glow as if nothing had happened. Wang was sitting at a table in the middle of Ningshui and Long Yin. Long Yin offered him some pancakes to eat. Ningshui, on the other hand, suggested that he eat a dumpling. There was clearly a sense of tension and fighting spirit between the girls.